Spaceboy and Surlana are out exploring the universe tonight. They will be back next week when they broadcast from Comicpalooza 2018. Till then, enjoy this best of SBU about Stan Romanek.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Okay, gang, let's go.
From the space city called Houston, Texas, welcome to Spaceboy Universe, featuring Spaceboy and the lovely Surlana. So strap in and prepare for launch sequence.
Greetings and salutations. I am Spaceboy.
And I am Surlana.
And this is Spaceboy Universe. It is October 29th, 2016, and we're on show number 106. Tonight, we'll be talking about Stan Romanek, a kind of a historical perspective of this man, and it is quite interesting. As always, follow us on Twitter, @the SB Universe. Follow Surlana, @Surlana, and me, your lovable Spaceboy, @Spaceboy Music.
Please remember to hashtag your tweets with hashtag SB Universe or hashtag Space Cadets.
And if you want to hang out with the Space Cadets, you can do so by going to spaceboyuniverse.com. Click on the dancing chat bubble, and that'll get you in with all the cool kids.
You can also find us on Facebook, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Just search for Spaceboy Universe.
Speaking of YouTube, Surlana, you know you can find more than just the Spaceboy Universe of archive of shows. There is video content from Spaceboy Music, video interviews, 2-Bit Gamers, and so much more.
And if you can't be with us live, that's not a problem. Take us on the go with you. Or look for us on Spreaker, SoundCloud, and iTunes.
Because, man, we love to broadcast and
I fell apart.
And laugh at our introduction. So, other than that, how are you, Surlana?
Sorry about that.
That's fine. In fact, I have a little something for you. Here you go. Yes. So.
Oh, please.
So I thought I'd throw something out here.
I think that's only fitting, given tomorrow it's been 10 years of that nonsense.
The word that I wanted to, sometimes it takes me about a week to remember something. Karen Allen.
Wow.
Starman, our last conversation we had with Manu Intiraymi, which incidentally we apologize about last week. Apparently technicalities happen again, but today the good people of Xfinity stopped by and helped us out today.
And didn't charge us because it was their fault.
Yes, so we have a better connection tonight, and we're just thrilled to death. And just know that we're going to pump out 3 hours worth of content for you to listen to. So, chat with the people in the chat room, and of course, listen to us as we stammer through our program. Hey, I want to give a congratulations to one of our loyal Texas listeners that is now across the pond in Britain. Lori Brooks just got married. So we want to just say congrats to you and, a happy future.
I actually sent her a message on Facebook to ask her to confirm something I saw that we'll talk about in banter here.
Oh, cool beans. Also, tonight is we've got a giveaway going on, and we also have a pop to give away. Funko Pop thing. It's Admiral Akbar. If you've tuned into our Twitter account, you've probably seen some of even our Facebook account. You've seen the pictures so far. The thing that we have here, the Admiral Akbar thing, is really cool. If you're a Star Wars fan, this is a must-get, and you can get it by being a caller tonight. And how this works out is that Surlana will judge all the calls that come in.
That sounds so harsh.
Well, how would you rather do it?
If you're a first-time caller, you'll definitely get preference.
Okay. So first-time caller preference, and then, of course, she'll pick whether or not you are worthy or not to get the special gift of the item of tonight. Now, speaking of giveaways, we also have another giveaway. And this contest,
it's bigger.
It's
a little bit
bigger. We have a illustrated book which is based upon Alien, the first movie. And it's quite interesting. This thing is huge. I mean, it's not like a small book. It's fairly big. And, I like to think of it as something where, with my old age, I can actually see it. But it is big, and all you have to do is send an email to stuff@spaceboyuniverse.com. That's stuff, STUFF, at spaceboyuniverse.com. Just put in your information there, your name and contact information, and we'll do a drawing on November 19th, which is the day after Spaceboy's birthday. And in celebration, towards the end of the program, we will, randomly pick somebody.
And I will use a random picker found online to do that. Once I just put all the names in, and it will be random.
So the swag is coming back, people. I mean, when we first started, we started doing some swag, and then we kind of got away because of different things. But now we're trying to bribe you to listen to us. I'm just going to be honest here, people. So, yeah.
Bribes work on me.
The bribes are good. And, Surlana, the best way to bribe her is Sam Moon. If you're here in Texas and you know what that is, then you know exactly what I'm talking about.
SamMoon.com exists.
Yeah, well, that is too. But
it's not a cult or anything. It's a person jewelry mecca.
The thing is, we've got many more of these wonderful Funko Pop items that are going to be coming up, and then each we got one for next week and the week after that, and then just some cool stuff, and then we're working on more cool stuff to give away. But we don't want you to think it's just about the giveaways. But people will tell you that, hey, I want a Star Trek spaceship, or I got some cool micro machine cars, and that like the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and so we try to do some really kind of cool things here.
Everybody agrees bribes work.
Yes, bribes do work. Yes, I see many of the people that are in there in the Space Cadet chat room that they've been bribed with the space swag.
There's a new listener I haven't seen before. Margaret is in there, so welcome.
Yes, howdy. Thank you for stopping by, and let's keep you on the registry here. So keep visiting us, Margaret. Grow with us. So now that we got some of that out of the way, I want to also mention mini maker fairs coming up soon.
Yes.
I keep saying this over and over, that if you're in Houston, you must come to this for the simple fact that Spaceboy Universe will be live there, in charge, and doing everything we normally do.
We hope we'll be able to broadcast.
Live in charge.
We don't know about their connection.
Well, we're working on that. I have a plan B, so I just got to figure out some calculations.
But we'll be there live if you're into that sort of thing.
But the thing
live people.
Surlana, if they want to get tickets, tell them about tickets.
Tickets, you can get in for half price.
What?
You just have to go to the Houston Mini Maker Fair website, and you go to purchase tickets, and you just put in the code Spaceboy, and that will get you in 50% off.
Did you say 50% off?
Yes.
50% off. Man, that is great. So
I don't know what much more we can do to entice you. We'll be there, get 50% off.
If you're in Houston, or you're going to be in Houston on the 12th and the 13th, definitely get your tickets. Come by, say howdy to us. Take some pictures with myself. Surlana is the silent partner, and as K28 will tell everyone. Stop on by, see us. Talk to us. And check out all the cool stuff that people make. So that is next month, November 12th and 13th. Come see us. All right, so we move on from now.
K28 only cares about Buc-ee's.
Yeah, Buc-ee's. I don't know.
Pictures of Buc-ee's.
He comes to Texas, and all of a sudden he's been Buc-eeified,
But he never went in there. He's obsessed with it, and he didn't even go in.
Pictures from the outside. So, What else we got going on here?
I will continue to call him out on that until he goes into one.
So, what else do you have on your list? I know you've got a few things that I'm interested. But
well, you mentioned our other friend, listener, Lori,
yes,
who just got married and moved to the UK. So I had found this article. Now, she confirms the chocolate version, but this is not what I was talking about. This says the diabolical minds at Taco Bell are stuffing Kit Kats inside quesadillas now.
What?
Apparently, I didn't know this, but they already had a chocadilla, which was just melted chocolate chips in a quesadilla.
Is that like a Shaka Khan or something like that?
Well, it's it's only in the UK right now. It's a Kit Kat chocodilla. It's what you expect. Kit Kat bars mashed between two folded flour tortillas. So I don't know if there's anything else inside it. It's this says it leaves us asking the U.S. what have we done to deserve this? Yeah, so it's similar to their, like I said, the one with the melted chocolates, but it's the full Kit Kat bar inside. Mm-hmm. So Uprock says they're the sort of maniacs who just fill burritos with cheese and shrug like it's no big deal.
Well, I guess I would try it once. I mean, tortilla.
There's nothing stopping you from doing it at your home.
Well, I mean,
just grab some tortillas and
I'm notorious about eating weird stuff to you. Like I have this thing where I like to have a chip sandwich. It's basically chips with some ketchup in it and 2 pieces of bread. I know it sounds bizarre, but
I'm sure it's perfectly acceptable on the planet you're from.
Also, another thing that my grandfather used to eat he would take a flour tortilla, a banana, and he would put peanut butter on the tortilla, and then he put the banana in it, and it was a peanut butter banana tortilla thing. And so, weird item I guess it's almost like having a peanut butter sandwich with a banana. But I digress. But speaking of treats, I'm kind of sad because after this month, I don't know if this is going to be here anymore. And I just tweeted this earlier. The pumpkin spice rolls from Little Debbie. I love pumpkin. I do, right? And
I've never tried it.
Right after
I don't touch them.
Right after pumpkin, I like pecan, especially during this time of the season. As we get towards Thanksgiving. But pumpkin is one of my all-time favorite. And I got these because I love pumpkin, and I didn't expect them to be that good. They are scrumptious. They are like crack, to be honest with you. And
Kay just asked, was your grandfather Elvis?
I guess so. I guess Spanish Elvis. He like I said, I come from a weird family.
I would have liked to have met
everybody has listened to me long enough to know that I'm, seem a little bit off here and there, but it's all for good. So, but yeah, my grandfather, he loved having a tortilla, peanut butter, and banana thing, taco, or whatever you want to call it, roll up, but anyway, these pumpkin spice things, if you get a chance to try one, if you see one, you should definitely eat one. And I've already tweeted Little Debbie, and thank you, Little Debbie, for making my life bearable.
How are you going to get by without it during the regular times of the
I guess
year?
I'll detox, if it comes down to it. That's one thing about pumpkin. I think I'm hardcore pumpkin in November
you're going to have
or
to give
October
me a
and
sliver of a taste at some point.
Yeah, during the break we'll share one and then you can report.
I don't even want the whole. Just
no, I know. I'll eat the rest of it. Trust me.
Okay.
There'll be no crumbs left. I'll even vacuum it off my shirt. And into my mouth.
I did get some ice cream to celebrate tomorrow. That's about as far as we're going to get with that.
Oh, so speaking of which, why are you saying that? Why are you saying that?
Because it gave me an excuse to get ice cream.
No, because tomorrow.
Oh.
Is it? Yeah. No, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow's our anniversary.
Yeah.
We've been together 10 wonderful years.
Feels like more.
I can't imagine a world without you. And and
that sounds like a man who's thought about it a lot.
I do think about it a lot. Every day I wake up and knowing that you're in my life, I just can't imagine anything else.
That sounds like a man who's got what do they call it, Stockholm Syndrome?
Well, whatever you want to say, I'll go with it. But anyway, yeah, you got ice cream. I did too. I got Neapolitan. I wanted some Neapolitan, but I didn't want to get a big old gallon of it.
Yeah, we got these little pints.
Fortunately, Bluebell had a small version of Neapolitan, and I haven't cracked into mine, so I'll probably crack into it tomorrow. I was too busy with the pumpkin spice rolls to even bother with that, so that's where I'm at with that. But it is all good. Surlana, this is kind of weird to do this, but I want to go ahead and play.
We didn't even finish Banner, but that's cool.
No. We're going to come back to Banner, but I want to change it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you.
Last year I did this where I played a story, if you will, of my favorite UFO story as a kid, and it was the Hopkinsville, Kentucky incident. And it's about a
spooky story.
Yeah, a spooky story. It's about that time of the year for the spooky story. And in the story, it's about this family out in the sticks, if you will, that were, I guess, antagonized by aliens. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. But when we come back, we can talk some more banter to the end of the hour, or to the bottom of the hour. This is only about 5-ish minutes, so let me get it and play it, and I hope you enjoy it. Of the many cases of alien encounters, one of the most bizarre is the Kelly Hopkinsville account of a terrifying night of little green men. This most unusual event originated on the night of August 21st, 1955. Located in a rural area of Christian County, Kentucky, this UFO enigma took place in a little town of Kelly, located near a small city of Hopkinsville. The Sutton family would be the target of this one-of-a-kind journey into the unknown. The lifestyle of the typical Kentucky rural family has been kept intact for many decades, and the Sutton family fit this tradition to a T. Lucky Sutton, as he was known to his friends and neighbors, was the patriarch of this bluegrass clan. Visiting Lucky and the family was a man from Pennsylvania named Billy Ray Taylor. On that night, Billy left the Sutton house to go get some water from the family well. At the well, he saw an immense shining object land in a small gully about a quarter-mile away. Running back to the house, he excitedly reported the sighting to the others in the house. Billy was laughed at. No one believed his crazy tale. After a short time, the family dog became irritable and started to raise a ruckus outside. As the custom in those parts, Lucky and Billy grabbed their guns and headed outside, planning to shoot first and ask questions later. When they arrived outside, only a short distance from the front door, both men stopped dead in their tracks by the side of a 4-foot-tall creature who was walking towards them with its hands up as if to surrender. The most bizarre creature would be described as having large eyes, a large mouth, large ears, thin short legs, and hands ending in claws. Frightened by this small goblin-like entity, Billy Ray fired a shot with his .22 and Lucky unloaded with his shotgun. Both men admitted later that there was no way they could have missed that creature at close range, but the little being just did a backflip and ran into the darkness of the woods. No sooner than the men re-entered the house before the creature, or another one like it, appeared in the window. They took a shot at him, leaving a blast hole through the screen. They ran back outside to see if the creature was dead, but they found no trace of it. Standing on the front porch of the house, the men were terrified by a claw that tried to reach down and pull one of them up. Again they shot, but the being just simply floated to the ground and scurried off into the darkness of the woods. The two men sought protection of the house only to find themselves under siege from these little men. For a time, the entity seemed to tease the family, appearing from one window to another. Taking potshots through the windows and the walls, their weapons seemed to be totally ineffective against these beings. After several hours of fear, the Sutton family decided to make a break from the house. Family members took 2 vehicles to the police station in Hopkinsville and reported their strange tale to Sheriff Russell Greenwell. Finally, persuading the policeman that they were not joking, the authorities agreed to visit the Sutton house.
Arriving at the farm, police found no traces of the creatures, but they did find numerous bullet and rifle holes in the windows and the walls. Greenwell was in charge of several officers at the scene and reported that the Suttons seemed sober and were genuinely frightened by something. Neighbors in the area were questioned to see whether they had heard or seen anything. They reported that they had seen strange lights in the sky and also heard the gunfire off in the distance. Exhausting all efforts to find the origin of this strange report, the police left the Sutton place at 2:15 a.m. As soon as they did, the creatures made their return. They began peeking in the window, seemingly out of curiosity. More gunfire took place, but again without any effect. Several more hours of antics followed, finally stopping just before daybreak. The police were finally persuaded to call in the Air Force personnel the next morning, but a new search brought no results. After the beings had left, Billy Ray and Lucky had gone to Evansville, Indiana to take care of some business. The other 5 family members were questioned by the Air Force and the police. On August 22, 1955, the Kentucky New Era newspaper carried the story of the events. Naturally, the initial public opinion was that the whole story was a hoax. If this was the case, several questions must be answered. Why would the Sutton family make up such an incredible claim? They made no money from the story and did not seek any publicity. Why would they shoot holes in the walls of their home, causing financial drain on the family to repair the damages? Including Billy Ray and Lucky, 7 adults were there to witness the events. All of them, when questioned separately, gave the same story. Also, sketches were made of the beings, and they depicted the creatures in a like manner. A year after the events, the case was thoroughly investigated by Isabel Davis. The witnesses' stories had not changed. As the years rolled by, the accounts of the Sutton family stood firm. No evidence of this hoax has ever been brought forward.
Anyway, that's a short story. It's one of my favorites. It's back in the 70s. I used to buy books, Surlana.
That's when you bought books.
Well, okay, I'd still buy books, ladies and gentlemen. She just doesn't, I'm not the reader she is. But anyway, you know how I told you I'd buy like stuff on Bigfoot and UFOs and stuff like that. And this is one of those stories I read as a kid, and it like freaked me out. It would make a great movie. And although they did some kind of reenactment,
it was cheesy as heck.
But I think that properly done, this movie it could be made and it would be really great. So anyway, that's my story for y'all. Now, I don't know which direction you wanted to go from here, but
just finishing up.
Okay, but I wanted to ask you, what did you think of the pumpkin spice?
It reminds me of something I've had before, but I can't recall what it is. But I won't say what part you said was the best, because I can't believe you said that.
What, the bottom?
Oh
yeah, I get that. Well, for full disclosure, this thing is really packed with white stuff in it, and I'm going to admit that I'm man enough to admit that it is very tasty. So beyond that, where are we now?
I'm going to tiptoe right away from that. I never was a big Vine user or watcher.
Yeah.
But I knew it was a prolific thing out there for maybe people younger than us. But it's just up and gone.
It's amazing that
Twitter killed it. They owned it. It's just gone.
Well, there's been some things that Twitter has been limping along and all that other stuff. But I had heard from a couple people that what really hurt this, the Vine, was that you had Instagram that was starting to do, kind of picture, just like the Vine would do. And that they really didn't pay much for their stars, their hardcore stars on Vine.
You can post video on Instagram, can't you?
Yeah, it's a short little loop, just like Vine. So between that and making money,
I can't figure out why. It's the only thing I haven't been able to find is why they've shut it down.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, they just. I've heard some rumors about Twitter, trying to cut some fat, but it's a shame that they couldn't have properly infused it better. But in all fairness, Twitter's using Periscope a lot, and so
That could be where they're moving toward.
It's probably because you could do, many of the space cadets have seen me do advertisement for Spaceboy Universe, and it's a great way to get the information out. And then
They don't limit you for time, do they?
No, I haven't had a situation where it just kind of limited me, but I just rolled with it, and Facebook, I think
Periscope is a free app. You can get it on your phone, and it'll send you a notification when he gets on and does videos.
Yeah. So and it goes over the Twitter, and then I also do a Facebook feed. Of course, I'm not prolific like Barrett is, one of our space cadets. He is, whether he's talking about food or whether he's talking about Fred in Paradise, which is, I guess, his...
Yeah, I like those.
Yeah, his chickens and
we
stuff.
had Chinese food today, Barrett, so there you go.
There you go. So there's a shout-out to Barrett. It's always good to see you, my friend. But, so where do we go from here?
Well, the other thing I think... you know what we did Thursday night? We went to Riff Tracks Live, and we saw them make fun of Carnival of Souls. And that you told me that was your first time to see that movie.
Yeah, because, there was a lot of times, we've seen the movies, and then there's even some times where you show me some riff tracks. And this one I was glad I didn't get to see because usually when I dive into a movie like this, I like to see it once and forget about it for a long while. But
forget about it for a while.
But with the gang all riffing on this movie,
there
was
were
great.
some good burns in that movie they put out there.
And then the intro, the clips that they had at the beginning before the movie were great.
They're always good.
Yeah, the Encyclopedia Britannica presents, and it's like what did
it's like he said, kids. Then an encyclopedia is like if someone alphabetized Wikipedia and then printed it out.
Yeah, that was good. So we had a good time. We had some good munchies there, and so it was always good to go to the movies because I love going to the movies. And so that even though that was long, I was telling you I could probably take that movie and cut it down to a 20-minute sitcom, basically. So,
well, it wasn't a sitcom. But the guy who played the skeevy border neighbor, that was in the same little boarding house, he was Sidney Berger.
You're right.
And when I did tech support at Major University here in Houston, he was the head of the College of Theater. And so when I gave my 2 weeks notice, I ran over there because I did tech support for them. And I went over to theater and I told the admin assistant, I said, you think I can get him to sign my liner notes on Carnival of Souls? And she said, oh, he'll love it. He'll pretend that he's, really put upon and like this is so beneath him, but he'll secretly love it. And so he told me about Carnival of Souls, that it was just a student production. They didn't mean to get any accolades or have it be a cult film. It was just for them a way to get some acting skills, and somebody to put together a production so they could get practice on it. But now it's this thing.
The thing is that my review on it is the movie is long. It can be shortened, and it has a Twilight Zone kind of feel to it. And if they could shorten it up, I think that
the best one is when she went to stop to get directions at the gas station, and the guy says, "Oh, it's just that way," and he pointed, and the camera moves. The camera shoots to where he's pointing, and there's just nothing. It's just black, and Mike goes, "It's just past that inky black void."
All right, so last but not least, some movie news. Or you put up two fingers.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Lando Calrissian for Star Wars, they've got their actor, and he is...
Young Lando.
Yeah, young Lando. Because, they're going to be doing the Han Solo thing, the 3 movies, and Lando's got to be somewhere in there.
I didn't know there were 3 movies.
Yeah, they're going to do a trilogy of Han Solo movies. But Lando is going to be played by
Donald Glover.
There you go, of Community that we love so much. But I think he's going to be perfect. I think he's got that look. We've seen him do funny things where I can see him do the Billy D. Williams
Does he
swagger.
have a Colt 45 smoothness?
Oh well, I think he does. I think he could pull it off. I think it's the direction they're going with those movies. It's going to be awesome. So I'm very excited to see that. I couldn't be more happier about a casting for Star Wars than him, and I think he beat out Jar Jar Binks. So that's good for us. So, anything else before we?
Other than I read that Giphy said that they would swoop in and take Vine.
Really?
Yeah. Where you go to find your little GIFs that you can post on different places.
Which I could see that happening. I was just really surprised because we do watch a lot of YouTube, as our audience knows. And what is it, the channel that we watch with the GIFs?
GIFs with sound, or GIFs have sound. There's two of them.
Mm-hmm. And in those, you basically have those GIFs. And
they're just short videos.
Short videos, and they put music to it, and it's quick and entertaining. And so I couldn't imagine why some company like that wouldn't come along and scoop them up and make the best out of it. So, but other than that, I guess that concludes our banner. Let's take our break, and when we come back, we will be talking about Stan Romanek.
Mr. Smooth there.
I'm from another planet. I'm from another planet.
Hey, Spaceboy, what makes Comic Palooza the largest pop cultural festival in Texas?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Surlana, because it's an event with over 2,000 hours of entertaining activities and over 1.2 million square feet of event space at the George R. Brown Convention Center here in Houston, Texas. In addition, with 2018 being Comic Palooza's 10th anniversary, we're expecting this to be the best show to date.
And it all takes place May 25th through May 27th, and attendees will have access to sessions that will cover popular trends, even obscure topics, a film festival, gaming competitions, cosplay contests, a live art auction, and so much more. The exhibit hall will be filled with specialty retailers for comics, popular artists, and exciting games. Also, Houston Makerspace will be there, along with NASA's showcasing their innovative technologies, and there will be a kids area that will be both fun and educational.
There also will be celebrity guests from your favorite movies, television series, comics, and literature to answer your questions and share their stories. They will engage the audience with Q&A sessions, sign autographs, and take photographs with the fans.
So which celebrities are going to be there?
Well, there's going to be quite a few, Surlana, but just to name a few off the top of my head, there's Tom Holland, Kristen Ritter, Charlie Cox, Patrick Warburton, Jerry Ryan, Brent Spiner, and so many more celebrity guests.
So you want to know more, you need to go to comicpalooza.com and get your passes today.
Comic Palooza 2018, 10th anniversary, Houston, Texas. Be there.
Hi, I'm Spaceboy.
And I'm Surlana.
And you're listening to Spaceboy Universe
on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.
This is author Jordan Root. You are listening to the Spaceboy Universe.
This is K28, and I'm listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hi, y'all. This is Lori calling from Texas, and I love listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hey, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to Spaceboy Universe.
This is Wendy. I'm listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hey, y'all. This is Lorelai DeLille. I listen to Spaceboy Universe. Don't you? Tell your mom and them I said hi.
The epic battle begins this Friday. Direct from ringside at Laser Death Melt Pit. Bot versus Bot in Galaxy's 2-ton weight championship, where your challenger, Good Bot, will face the reigning champion, Bad Bot. You're terminated. Reserve seating starting at $30. 2-drink minimum, where ladies don't get in free. This is an SBU production. You're listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hey, Surlana!
What?
If Spaceboy Universe was cheese, would you eat it? Come on now, it's a simple question.
Maybe?
SpaceboyUniverse.com.
Greetings, Space Cadets. Let's see what's in the sky tonight in the Spaceboy Universe. Tonight, in the eastern sky, we have Spaceboy Universe rising above the horizon in glorious splendor. And in the west, we can see Surlana's Majoris, which is visible at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, just below the K28 belt. So keep your eyes on the sky and listen to Spaceboy Universe.
Greetings everyone. You can catch Spaceboy Universe on every Saturday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. However, we know that you might not be able to catch the live show. That is why we have many places to listen to it on demand, like iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube and Spreaker. So take the universe with you wherever you go. Always remember that, it's Spaceboy's universe, and you're in it.
To call in, dial area code 713-7015-214. You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Surlana.
All right. Hey. I just forgot something, and it's a major announcement.
Yes.
I want to tell all the space cadets that are listening tonight, we are expanding, as the universe usually does. Basically, now I would like to point your direction in the form of Spaceboy, SBUnetwork.com. And what is that, you're probably wondering about? It's basically the hub of universal knowledge that will be transmitted out to the universe. It includes our show, it includes Spaceboy Music, the show that you'll hear now on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And what's really exciting is that we are now going to be hosting the Reverend John Polk in his show, Quantum Hologram Matrix. I'm sorry. Usually I get a little mixed up there.
Well, we both got mixed up over it.
Yeah, but we fixed
the
it.
other night.
But yes, he will be broadcasting from the Universe channel, and that is SBUnetwork.com, this Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. 10 p.m. Well, it's 9 p.m. Central. See, I hate these different time zones, Surlana. It messes me up.
I know. Why do why does the earth have to turn and be in different places at different times?
The reality is his show is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you do the math on your time zone.
Yeah, you do. You figure it out.
You figure it out. Just know that on Wednesday nights,
our head hurts.
Yes, it's making my eye twitch. And but yes, so it's exciting time.
But you can find out when he's on if you go to SBUnetwork.com.
Thank you for always saving me, dear. And of course, you can always follow the Twitter account. We have a Twitter account for the SBU Network. Mm-hmm. It's out there as well.
And we set him up with a new Twitter. Mm-hmm. It's QH Matrix, at QH Matrix.
So some great things to follow, and like I said, just keep your eyes on those pages. You never know when we'll add another show to the mix. We'll see if that is ever a reality. But for right now, as it stands, we welcome Reverend John Polk to the Universe family, and that will happen every Wednesday night. And I will be producing his show behind the scenes, so the show that you've come to love here, you'll love that show as well, because he'll have the backing of the universe. So I wanted to make sure that everybody got that message out, and I apologize. I meant to talk about that earlier, but we're both excited about that, and it's just going to be great to work with John. He's just a swell guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
very patient with our screw ups.
But he sees that we do mean well, and
we will be on his show.
Next
week.
Yes, so this next week, next Wednesday, we'll all be together, call-ins, and and
it's always going to be on Wednesdays.
Wednesday
for him.
night. So you got Wednesday nights. You have the Quantum Hologram Matrix with Reverend John Polk. You have Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, the Spaceboy Music Hour, Play It Loud, and then our Saturday show, Spaceboy Universe, is in full effect. And so there you go. I'm sure you'll have questions. If you do, just send me a tweet or something, and I'll respond in kind. So, Surlana, I have to say that back in August, when we were planning out shows, I pretty much kind of had this in my mind to do Stan Romanek on the 29th.
And when you first suggested, I'm like, oh, isn't that kind of controversial?
And you did go through the gambit, and the controversy, yes, but as you started to research more recently the information, would you say your opinion has...
Yeah, I've been able to look into this deeper, and you said this is how we're going to approach it. We're just going to go through, one, it's kind of you could look at it like it's kind of a Halloween story.
Right.
You know, because it deals with high strangeness and UFOs. We could look at it from that aspect. But then also, we're presenting it as a historical, we're recounting.
Right.
And then at the end, we'll offer maybe opinions on both sides, and we'll say, well, sure, you could say this, or the debunkers have said this, but this is why that, we're going to just really be very analytical. We're not being judgmental. We're not out to point fingers. It's not a, literal
Gotcha.
witch hunt.
Yes,
we're just trying to sit back and analyze this. And plus, you can also just look at it as a spooky story if you'd like to.
Yeah, there's definitely some high strangeness there. And like I said, I kind of backtrack here because, like I said, when we were planning out virtually the rest of the year as far as programming was concerned, we had, just different dates where we had penciled in, okay, we should try this show. But that one really stood out to me because I've always been interested in Stan. And I thought, in the beginning when we, before we start getting into it, I wanted to get the people the mindset how we led into this. And you were kind of reluctant because of the controversy. Weren't you kind of reluctant because of the happenings that went on with Stan and his family?
Yeah, well, I didn't know how people would think of us covering that, but there's a way to do it that is, like, let's look at this situation, what happened. I mean, we don't normally do controversy, but this one, well, we'll just get into it, and we'll let our listeners tell us what they think if they want to.
Well, go ahead and start us up with Surlana, and let's get this game going and getting our audience involved.
You know me, I like to do things chronologically because I can't help myself. So, for those, I know there's at least 2 people in chat who don't know what the heck we're talking about. So I'm going to start there. Who is Stan Romanek? Well, he's just a guy like you, like me, just a regular guy. He grew up as a military brat. His father was in the Air Force, so they did that thing where they had to move around. He has brothers and a sister, or I don't know if it's sisters. So he had his dad's in the military, and he never says to this day he did not know what his dad actually did for the Air Force because his father never talked about it. But he was sent to every major missile installation pretty much across the country.
Right.
So it has something to do with missiles. So he's a guy that started having some strange experiences when he was a kid. Not many to be consistent, but then, and in the year 2000, it started kicking off. Right. And we'll get into each one of these. So,
well, it's important to go back to his youth because of him experiencing the woman that walked up to him.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that.
Okay, I just making sure. I didn't want you to jump to the 2000s.
No. We've got, what, 2.5 hours to kill?
Yes, please.
So, he also says he was a skeptic, and he stayed a skeptic well up into the time he was having these experiences. It took a few things to really, bring it home to him that this was happening to him, as he says. Now, I will say, I read his book, Messages. I read his wife's book, From My Side of the Bed, and I read the book about his hypnotic regression sessions, but that was over a year ago.
Also, I want to point out at this time, too, which I should have done a little bit sooner, is that we did try to reach out to Lisa Romanek and to see if she wanted to come on and talk about any of the subject matter. But it could be that because of the
Actually, that's going on this month. He's going back to trial this month, so legally may not be a good idea for her to talk about it.
Yeah, so, but I think at some point, if we demonstrate tonight, our fairness of trying to present the information and what we conclude with, that maybe we can get her as a guest, and if,
maybe later on.
And if Stan is vindicated, maybe we can talk to him as well.
Well, it's just, we'll see.
Yeah. So, but I just wanted to point that out, but please continue, Surlana.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to point out before I get into it, he at several points Stan says himself, a lot of this stuff can be faked that has happened to him, and we only have his word and maybe his wife's word, and then I'll present a counterpoint to that. But they also have eyewitnesses to the UFO experiences, so not all of it is just their word.
Well, the reality is, if I can interject here, is that through the course of the whole history of Stan, he's always had some kind of witness there to back him up, whether it had been from different things, and we'll get into those. But there's always been something to back him up to say, yeah, well, I saw that, or I can confirm that. So,
So, to get started, he thinks that he was being prepped in some way to become a contactee, and then later a messenger and an abductee. Now, he remains, as I said, he would remain a skeptic, but for him, the evidence kept mounting up, and like I said, there were some other witnesses, so at some point, he couldn't dismiss it. Okay, as I said, his childhood, his dad was in the Air Force, and at one time, he was out of Minot, North Dakota. And he remembers that incident where a UFO flew over the installation and activated a missile while it was still in its silo. And they followed it, I guess the military followed it or chased it across the town, and the UFO ended up hovering over or near the town's water tower. And he says the next day, Stan's father had them using bottled water from then on. Now, he didn't elaborate on that, but I don't know what Stan's father thinks the UFO may have done to the water, but never talked about it.
I think it's kind of a funny coincidence, but foresight for his father to switch to bottled water.
I don't blame him. I mean, that might be a prudent move to do that. We're on bottled water just because.
Well,
I've seen what comes out of our tap water. It's not like It's not like Flint, Michigan, bad, but it's like, yeah, I'm not drinking that. Okay, now something I want the listeners to note, if we're looking at this as an analytical, like if we're doing a research paper or something, is it's important to note that Stan says at the age of 5 years old he was diagnosed with severe dyslexia. So when he was 8 years old, that's when the strangeness began. He was approached in the park by what he said was a pretty lady. And she had extraordinary luminous blue eyes, large and almond-shaped. And she came up to him, and she had her hand was in a fist, and she opened her hand, and inside her hand was this glowing blue marble that was hovering above her hand. And Stan recalls that she did not move her lips to talk to him. She showed up again years later when his family moved to Wyoming, and she went up to him and his family and told his mother, he goes, "You've such a nice young boy here. We'll take him if you don't want him." And his mother says, "No, I think we'll keep him. That's fine." She's weirded out. But she would come back in 10 years to tell him he was special. And he was in a park again and said that they are the same, or they're from the same place. So he had nothing since then, and then the year 2000 rolls around. He had his first UFO sighting.
Well, you're kind of jumping ahead because.
Okay, you got more info?
Well, let me ask you this. Maybe I'm vague on this part. Where is the time where he's living with his sister?
That's upcoming.
Okay, for some reason I thought it was prior to 2000, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's upcoming. Because he has to see this UFO first. and this UFO will crop up again and again and again. There's like 3 or 4 types, and he keeps seeing these certain types over and over and over. So he was living in Colorado in 2000. He actually mentioned somewhere in that video we saw on YouTube that he had been training to be an Olympic cyclist, and for some reason he had to give that up. So he's living in Colorado in the year 2000, and he had met this girl online, Lisa, but she was in Nebraska. She was living in Nebraska with her 3 kids, divorced. So he was trying to entice her to come visit Colorado, and he was trying to show her how beautiful it was. So he said he was going to go out and videotape some of the areas he knows it's really pretty, send her the tape, maybe that would get her to come over. So he went up to the Red Rocks area in Colorado, and he goes up this road to go to film to this one spot, and he notices there's people with cars that have pulled over on the side of the road. They're all out of their cars, and they're looking up at the sky and pointing. So he looks up in the sky, and he sees what they're looking at was this weird silvery object, and the way he describes it was kind of strange. He said it was like spheres connected in a sphere shape, but with smaller spheres in a circle below it going counterclockwise to the main part of this craft.
I think the craft was really interesting in the sense that, imagine if you will.
I think I can tweet that.
Yeah, go ahead and tweet that while I kind of try to describe it in my best words. Is that think of a globe, a soft glowing globe on top, and then on the bottom of this the sphere were like smaller little globes, and I don't want to say it seems
it's
solid.
Very strange looking. I just tweeted it.
Looking.
If you follow me or at the SBU Universe, you'll see it right now.
But I'd be curious to get.
I think this is Stan's actual photo. Or
take a look at that, Space Cadets, and see what you think, and then go ahead and chime in the chat room and your thoughts on the spacecraft.
He looked at it, and he drove on past the onlookers for a little bit. That's when he noticed this craft was pacing his van. So he decided to stop. He got out with his camcorder, and zoomed way in and tried to look at it. The object came to this weird abrupt stop, and then it just zoomed off with a sonic boom. So that was pretty strange. That was his first UFO sighting. And so that's when he says he began to have more strange encounters. Like whenever he was at home and he got on the phone, he would hear these clicking noises. Assuming this is his landline phone, because back in 2000, I think we all still had some
landlines. Yes. And
sorry about that. Got a little distracted. Apologize. He heard some clicking noises, and I think he called the phone company, and I think they came out, and they found a listening device on his line. I don't know where it was, but it was he had some more things happen to him, and this is coming from the book that I read. He was at a fast food joint with his sister and I think a friend, or maybe it was somebody else, but they were standing in line, I think he said, and he was approached by what he described. It almost sounds like a man in black. And he came up to Stan and says, "It's not over yet," and then just, I guess, disappeared. Which I thought that was really strange. Also, at this time, I believe, right after he had his first sighting in that encounter, he noticed something different about himself physically. That he noticed when he would approach electrical equipment, it would malfunction. Like maybe it just, it went haywire or it would overload. And
I've known people like that. Like for example,
there are some people that seem to have sort of a natural EM higher.
Like my older sister, older sister, she can't wear a watch to save her life because
it doesn't work.
And the moment she puts it on, it doesn't matter what kind of watch, it completely just craps out and doesn't work.
Analog and digital?
Yes, analog and digital.
That's crazy.
It is.
But have you ever seen like videos and photos of people that can have spoons and they're just sticking all over the body like?
I think that's a little stretch from the electronics part, what I'm thinking of. But yes.
But there's something about them. They're more charged electrically or something, maybe.
Exactly. Some can
it's
draw
possible, I suppose. But imagine having that much, you would fry a computer. Or make lights go crazy, or a street light. Can you imagine that?
Yes.
That's what I believe he said was happening to him. And what it got me is he said that he could not touch or be near a hotel key card because I guess he would scramble it, right?
Right.
So he could not touch that. It had to be someone else to touch that. But I think the weirdest thing I read in his book was, and I'm hoping it didn't last too long for him, is when he began to attract birds.
Yeah.
But he would be driving along, and I believe they would smash into his windshield whenever he happened to be out driving. And he noticed that the birds seemed like they couldn't stop themselves, like they were trying to fly backwards, like they didn't want to do this or trying to fight it, but he couldn't stop. So he would be maybe at home or in his office next to a window, and they would slam into the window. But he even had a situation, I believe, where he was with Lisa and her children in his van, and they were pelting the van.
Right.
And he says that did calm down. It still happens from time to time, but I imagine that is got to be disturbing, upsetting.
Well, I can imagine. We've seen evidence where birds have been affected like that before, and with birds using the Earth's magnetic field.
I'm wondering if he has this heightened EMF field. I don't know how you'd want to describe it. Could it be throwing off their internal GPS, so to speak? We'll call it like that.
Right.
That they couldn't help it. It's just. Something went wonky with their guidance systems. I don't know how else to explain that.
I guess Stan was some kind of magnetic lightning rod, if you will, to throw these animals off.
But it must have been like living the movie The Birds.
Well, yeah, I can imagine so. And I'd be pretty.
I prefer that to Birdemic, but
can you imagine? One bird alone hitting your windshield,
that does happen. Sometimes birds will see the reflection in your window, like in your house, and they'll go crazy thinking it's another bird. But this sounds like it was beyond that.
Right. Well, it sounds like the beginning of a movie, if you will. where you have this happen. I think in the movie I saw recently. What was it? You told me not to watch. It was some scary.
I always tell you don't watch that because I don't want to sleep with the blue light on all night.
Yeah. So these I guess this group of birds just pelted this window, but anyway, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
It's a kind of a known phenomenon, and where people have documented birds doing strange things,
birds can do some strange things, but I don't think they will do this collectively. Different species in large numbers,
right?
So I'm just trying to point out this sounds like something different from the norm of bird behavior. But he also mentions in his book that, touch lamps would go insane. Like, I guess it's like a strobe effect. I want to say he may have had a thing happen to him in a hardware store with some lights. I can't recall. But his second UFO spotting was when he was on a road trip to Pennsylvania. I think he's like you and I, where we just don't want to fly. We don't like the whole.
I don't mind so much. It's kind of like, okay, just put my mind in a different dimension, if you will, and I'll fly. So I'm not even thinking about flying. But you are the other side of this.
I need drugs.
Yeah, you're like B.A. Baracus from the A-Team. We have to drug you to get you wherever we need
Somebody
to go.
gave me a prescription pill. I don't remember what it was, to get me on the plane for us to go get married because we went and got married
to Las Vegas
at the Star Trek Experience at Las Vegas. 10 years tomorrow.
Yes, which that's why we're just so happy. Speaking of happiness, let's go ahead and take a break.
Oh, it's a break time?
It's a break time, and it'll be a short break. It's a short song that I originally wrote for Solaris, which is called Solaris, and but she ended up getting a different song altogether, which is A Million Miles to Midnight, which is
awesome,
promoting her book. But here's the original song I wrote, and it's short, but once we come back, we'll continue our discussion about Stan Romanek. Okay, we're back. That was Solaris, the song that I originally wrote for Solaris to promote her book, but I didn't feel like it captured the essence of the book. And she ended up getting another song for me called A Million Miles to Midnight. And, both of those, I know Solaris is listening tonight. Surprise! There's two songs for you, and you didn't even know that the other one existed until tonight. So I hope you enjoy that one, too.
You were working on one, and I said I want a dance mix of that. So maybe, I don't know if you ever did it, but I'd like to have that soon.
We'll revisit. So, and we have some special people in the chat room, and we just want to say thank you for showing up, and look forward to talking to all of y'all soon here in the future.
Especially the ones that know me personally. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Yes, so... Anyway, on that,
back to where we were. Yeah. I wanted to talk about Stan's second encounter, and he went on this road trip with Lisa and I guess their friend Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So they drove from Colorado to Pennsylvania, and he says the drive was uneventful to Pennsylvania, but when they came back somewhere around the Pennsylvania-Ohio border, they saw their next UFO. Now, this one was a little cheeky, I think, from the way they described it, where it would dart in and out of the clouds while they were driving, but the minute they brought up a camera, I think it would, go behind the clouds. I think it's kind of a silly thing, I think it was playing with them. But he said this was a large classic disc shape like you hear, and it was playing peekaboo through 2.5 states, so I don't know what the miles is on that, how many miles that is. But she did get some footage of it, I believe, while driving. So, but still at this point, I believe Stan can kind of dismiss this stuff. It's like, it could be this, it could be that, He knew logically that a craft going faster than light, it would still take years and years to get to Earth. And that's what a lot of debunkers say. But there are, if you keep listening, you'll learn that there are other ways that we maybe didn't know about that we can, there are other ways to get here.
That's why I'm always saying it's a big universe. There's mysteries there that we haven't yet to discover.
Yeah, who are we to think we know it all?
Yeah, exactly.
So he said later on he did learn about wormholes and bending space-time. But these were all theories. So.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. I was reading an article today about black holes being a gateway to other places, like in the ninth dimension, if you will. And somebody made a joke in there. Well, I think it's probably well beyond 9 dimensions, but that
just blows my mind. The parallel universes and dimensions, and I don't even know. We could probably try to do a show on it, but I think my head would just hurt too much. So. But one of the things I just want to point out here is he begins, I guess he's documenting this stuff, and now he's building a history of incidents. And he says, so far, by this time I believe, he's had his phone tapped, he's been approached by an odd stranger, he's killed birds, not by his own will, but accidentally. He's fried electronics, lights go on and off when he's around them, when he touches them. He's had 2 UFO sightings. And now, in 2001, he will become an abductee. So, now, in his book, he wants to stress this is not sleep paralysis, because he got up and he was present, and he remembers everything up to a point. So, and it was, what stands out to me is this isn't your typical abductee recalling where, you're asleep and da-da-da-da. He says they were polite enough to knock on the door. They didn't appear in the dark at night. They just knocked on the door. So I believe his sister got there first, and this is on September 20th, 2001. Well, before he got to his apartment, he was locking up the store he was managing, and some people who were leaving came back and said, "There's something weird above your store," and it was another UFO, and it followed him home to his apartment. And he was having his sister over, and I think somebody else, I can't remember who, but he got home and ran in and tried to get his camera or something, and he got his friend and his sister to come out, but of course by the time they get back outside, it's gone.
Right.
But later on, when they go to bed, he was fully awake when they knocked, or he woke up, and he got up to answer the door, and it was 2:30 a.m., and it was a persistent knock. But his sister beat him to the door, and he was trying to tell her not to open the door, don't let anybody in, but she was just standing there speechless. Now, I don't know if she was in a stupor or she was just too shocked to move.
He kind of described that she was at the door and kind of looking at the ceiling and kind of in this zombie state, And so from that point,
Yeah, so I don't know if it was beyond her ability to move or it was just one of these things you're just too shocked. You're like, what?
Where in many cases where you hear people have been kind of like the aliens have come and they kind of put a person into this catatonic state, if you will, and they're kind of out of it.
I would not mind having that ability. The things I could do. Anyway, these... 3 entities, if we'll call them, sort of just came on in, pushed his sister aside, and he thought it was two men and a woman in bad Halloween masks and costumes.
And at this point, it's good to point out that I guess one of the aliens was womanly, shapely as a woman kind of thing, and that's how he was kind of able to tell the difference between the other two, and
Yeah. So he wasn't thinking, aliens, I guess, at that point. So he said they were only 4.5 feet tall, and I guess the males were wearing a light blue jumpsuit, and the female was wearing a robe, and she had this pendant that looked kind of modern. It was sort of iridescent. He said the design kind of looked like angel wings that were folded inward. Mm-hmm. I thought that was interesting that he could remember that kind of detail.
Right.
He said their heads were massive on top of skinny necks and skinny bodies, and remind me to bring that up a little bit later.
Sure.
Okay.
Wispy hair too.
And,
as well.
Yeah, pure white hair, but very sparse on their heads.
Right.
And as you said, womanly because she had maybe breasts. Try not to say boobs because
I was trying to say shapely for to be PG, but she had boobs.
Yeah, I guess that's a PG word. Then massive almond-shaped eyes, long pointy chins, tiny slit noses and mouth, and I've tweeted a sketch of this at the SB Universe if you want to look at it.
And another thing was that the eyes were not the typical gray eyes that we see so documented so regularly, like black. They actually...
Yeah, the sketch has like big human-looking eyes.
Yeah, exactly. And
like with pupils and iris.
And I have to interject here at this point. I don't find... when I was looking at those sketches, I don't find... I've told you about my past experience of having panic attacks as a kid, looking at sketches of aliens.
I don't blame you. That's freaky.
But, these sketches, it was like... I didn't feel like... I didn't have that panic sensation when I looked at these particular aliens that I've seen, in other sketches of the Greys. The Greys really, I guess, freaked me out for some reason. But anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I welcome your input. It's your show anyway.
It's our show.
Happy
anniversary.
Yeah, happy anniversary. Anyway, he said that their face was sort of triangular, and it reminded him of a possum. I guess how possums are sort of hairless at the front, really pointy nose.
Yeah, I could
black eye. They have black eyes too, don't they? So I could kind of get where he's coming
dark
from.
Dark eyes, yeah.
But
I could see that.
And I think the female talked to him telepathically and told him it was going to be okay. And I think he was sort of like, maybe he was sort of a state like his sister. Maybe he's like, what's going on where you don't move because you're trying to process.
Well, I get the sense that Stan was more in control of the situation than his sister. His sister seemed zapped out of it, but he seemed more like he was ready to go into action. And
she took hold of his wrist and led him to the balcony. And I guess that's when he snapped out of his little daze he was in, and he got this urge to fight back.
Right.
So I think he went to lift up one of the males, and he was going to toss him over the balcony. And I'm like, wow, that's badass. But the minute he tried to get that going, one of them touched the back of his head, and the next thing you know, he's waking up in bed this morning. And this is sort of a theme where I don't know what they're doing to touch the back of his head. I don't know if this is like a Vulcan nerve pinch, their version of it, or what they're doing to make him so easily go out. But that's just sort of a way to, I don't think they reboot him for later, maybe. So
well, that reminded me of Communion, or at least the part in Communion movie where Christopher Walken's playing. Oh man, I can't believe I just forgot his name.
Pretty sure it's not Gene Hackman.
No, it's not Gene Hackman. Anyway, Christopher Walken's playing this part, and why can't he play? Anyway, it shows the alien has this wand and touches the character, and he kind of like he forgets. It's kind of like just like Stan's situation where he forgets, and the next thing you know, he's like, okay, what just happened here? It'll be one of those names I'll remember later.
Well, so from the time that he got touched on the back of the head to waking up, he doesn't remember. He would later go get hypnotic regressions to get that memory back. But so he gets up the next morning in his apartment, and Did you remember?
Whitley
Strieber?
Yes.
Is that who you're trying to remember?
Man,
I could have told you.
I cannot remember. It just, I have these periodic blackouts.
I could have told you if I was paying attention to you.
So anyway, that in that movie Communion, it shows
I never saw that movie. I kind of like to see it.
It's really kind of bizarre, but when they're in the upstate, and I know we're switching here for just a second.
Well, it's the same stuff.
But I'm making a comparison where it shows this alien come around the corner and touches Whitley Strieber in the head with this wand-like device, and it's like, okay, what just happened? You go from point A to point Z, and you forget everything in between, and it's that similar situation where the aliens seem to have tapped Stan in the back of the head in this, and once again, it's maybe they know.
I'd like to have this technology.
The human brain, they know, okay, we touch a human here, and then zap, whatever. You won't remember what happened.
Right. So, so they got up next morning, and I believe he was writing this off as a bad dream, but he kind of had this sense of dread.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of anxiety, because I've dealt with true anxiety. Isaac is a sense of dread too.
I can imagine that after an experience, and you forget, but there must be some kind of resident memory there of the fright or the to be overwhelmed by things that your mind can't process. Would still be resident in your mind.
Well, so they're getting up the next day, and his sister notices these marks on his lower back, these scoop marks. He had abrasions on his wrists, his legs, and they glowed under black light. I don't recall what tipped him off to try to put it under black light. And he says these little abrasions healed fast, I guess under 48 hours, but they would still fluoresce. These areas would fluoresce under black light weeks after, and he tried to scrub them off. And
they used the black light to look at another scar, and it didn't show anything under that, but that when they definitely put it under the scoop marks, they glowed. And
well, his sister said what she recalled about that night was she had a bad dream, she thought, about 3 people in striped suits that came into the apartment. So maybe they put a different memory in her head that was a little bit more normal.
Right.
So she could... Sorry, I'm laughing at Dennis. I just happened to catch what he said. That she could probably dismiss it as a dream.
Right.
And so it was, I guess, is a bit much for him, so he tried to forget it all. And so... the next thing is, he's trying to get away from all this weirdness, the UFO sightings, the tapping, the phones. And now this is what I think is kind of odd. So as a way to relax and hang out with his friends, they go to a sky watching party. I'm sorry, that's a little bit like asking for it.
Right.
That's like, help me get away from eating so much cake. Oh, let's go to a food fair. But, I was kidding. I'm just kidding. So he goes, and I guess he's driving up there and to Daniels Park. This is September 2001. And he's driving up there to meet up with these other people. And it's an astronomy, maybe it's astronomy club, and they star watch. So as he's driving up there to Daniels Park, he notices that a red strobe light, and the light seems to be coming from all around him above his car. And it's that same weird spherical soccer ball looking craft.
Right.
So I guess he freaked out and he hit the gas pedal and floored it to the top of the hill, trying to get to where there's more people, so just in case, so nothing would happen. Makes sense to me. So this thing did this sharp stop or turn that breaks the laws of physics as we know it and hovered over the parking lot. Now there's plenty of witnesses.
Right. Documented witnesses.
And some of them even hid under picnic tables. So this thing must have been fairly close for people to freak out that much.
Well, I think just the idea of seeing something like that in the sky, whether it be that close or not, I mean, I know personally I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm seeing what I'm seeing, and it once again, it goes into that defying what we know as reality, kind of like, you know, challenging what we think is what is reality. And so I can only imagine some of these people couldn't handle it.
Well, his friend Mark was there, and he had this keychain flashlight on a keychain. And so I guess he was doing something with his little flashlight to like signal UFOs to see if they would respond. And it made some course changes when he would move his little light. And it flew slowly over everybody at the park. So this time this thing wasn't shy about being seen. And everybody agreed that it was a solid three-dimensional object. And some of them even saw Stan booking it up the road when it was following him. So now he's got witnesses for this, at least.
And this is important at this time to point this out. Is one, there are witnesses to Stan's situation, and you know, this is going to be key as we continue on with the story. Witnesses can collaborate and verify what was seen.
Right. So he goes on after that, and he has another sighting or an encounter, let's say. A bluish white light comes over his van, fills up the inside of the van with this charged static electricity. And again, he's got some witnesses, I guess. All the cars behind him stop, pull over, and people are getting out of their cars. Now, the light turned off suddenly, and he got out to see the same soccer ball object. This time, he was just angry. He said, and I thought this was funny the way he described it in the book, was that he was being stalked by an angry ex-girlfriend. That's what it felt like.
You know, what's funny is through Stan's telling of the story, it comes across very humorous, and it's not like you know, in these situations you could see the life and the vitality that he comes across in telling the stories, and it comes. I guess what I'm trying to say is that he has such an energy that is positive at that time to tell the story and convey that to people.
Sorry, I'm getting, if you want the actual.
Okay.
Well, I was trying to find. I've got my phone here with my Kindle with a book on. I was going to try and find the actual description of it, but I can't find it quickly. So, as I say, he's got witnesses this time, and he was able to videotape the UFO at Old Stone House Park, this area.
Yes.
And there was more witnesses there. There were police and jet fighters chasing it. So, but what's strange about this incident is that when he was in touch with MUFON in the area. When they went to investigate this part of it, they couldn't find any records of the police or emergency vehicles being dispatched to this event.
Which is not uncommon in many high-profile incidents like this, where documents supposedly go missing or the Air Force denies of ever being in an area. But you can't dispute the fact of the public being there and seeing what was going on.
Right. So I guess at this point, now he's got some media coverage, locally at least. So now I guess he's known as the UFO guy in the area. So he's starting to get paranoid and tense when he goes outside. Because now I guess he's thinking, what's he going to see or what's going to happen if he goes outside.
Right.
So sure enough, the local Fox affiliate did a story on Stan about all this incident. But what's weird is they did not broadcast it till 8 months later. And just before they were about to air it live, 20,000 homes lost power. So while the power was out, Stan said that his phone rang and a voice asked him if his power was out. He said yes, and he says, well, it's no accident and that he should be careful. So he was starting to accept this is something real. He should pay attention. They found out later that the outage was supposedly caused by someone trying to burn a wooden telephone pole. But later they said it was a metal utility pole, which doesn't burn.
Right.
But odd.
Extremely odd.
So he says, that his family would get threats. Once I guess he married Lisa and they lived together. He got threats. They said they were going to kill him and his family. If he would go to a hotel to stay, or he would give a lecture in a hotel, that hotel would get bomb threats. Mm-hmm. He doesn't quite know who was behind all that. So
I guess this is kind of the beginning where...
And that's been going on the whole time.
This is kind of the beginning where people are kind of indirectly, I guess they're being followed, or actually, I mean, they're not necessarily being followed, but they are aware of Stan.
Mm-hmm.
They're creepy...
They're watching, like somebody's watching.
Somebody's out there watching, or,
Well, somebody here on Earth and somebody not on Earth, probably.
Right. So there's
a lot of
the beginnings
watching him. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he decides to try to get that memory back of the night the visitors came.
Mm-hmm.
So he went through the process of finding out how to do it, and he goes, I guess, hypnotic regression to find out what happened for him. So he undergoes this process, and he recalls that when he was taken, he remembers being naked in a brightly lit room, and he was restrained or immobilized in some way. And he says that he saw hundreds of copper-colored discs embedded into the wall all around him, and he was restrained to the wall. But this place he was in had it was rounded. There were no right angles or sharp corners. Mm-hmm. A table that seemed like it was molded into the floor, like it was coming up out of the floor with a teardrop tube hanging over the table. The ceiling had lights. I mean, it was coming out of the ceiling, this device that had lights and instruments on it. He said he wanted to scream, but he couldn't get it out. And as his fear was ratcheting up, they seemed agitated, like his fear irritated them.
Right.
And these were the same beings from the apartment he was with in this room. And so the female tried to send him these calming messages, but she put her hand on his shoulder, and he got this feeling of warmth in his chest. She released him from the wall, and he had telepathic communication with her, which kind of calmed him down. He asked the usual questions like, who are you, what do you want, blah, blah, blah. But he was given back answers in symbols and diagrams. But she flooded him with information, and he couldn't handle it. Like maybe it was too much at once, or maybe it was too complex, and he fell to his knees.
Like getting high-speed information.
Internet. When only you got a 56K modem,
Exactly.
Yeah, we're nerds, can you tell? She told him something was about to happen, and don't you hate it when they're vague like that?
Yes, I guess I get tired of the typical aliens that say, well, if you don't clean up your planet, you're doomed, and it's going to turn into a desert.
Well, what can I do about it?
I mean, can you help a brother out here?
Yeah.
Like, can you give me some more information?
I'm not a congressman. Why don't you go abduct them?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just Joe Schmo. What do you expect out of me to figure out and do? But it's interesting that he got this information.
Yeah.
And
so she told him about these horrific natural disasters that are going to happen, but he couldn't get a time frame reference. Right. But he was shown symbols. One of them was these series of dots that was in the shape of a backwards question mark. And it was after this incident, when he gets back, he starts writing these complex equations and symbols. And this, again, I bring it up to you that he says he was diagnosed with severe dyslexia at age 5. And he admits there's no way he could do this, and there's no way he could do it quickly. And I couldn't either.
Also, Stan goes out and says that his math level.
Yeah, 5th grade math competency, as he says in his book.
And so when you take into account what he draws, it's amazing because, of Stan's own words saying of his own disabilities to be able to you kind of like, well, it seems impossible for somebody of his character, or not character, but his caliber as far as his knowledge and his dyslexia and the math angle to be able to draw these complex things.
There's another condition you can have that's dyslexia when it comes to math, and I can't remember what the name of it is, but It's just like I said, if he has this thing where he has dyslexia, it's got to be able to affect the ability to do math. Because if you can't read quickly, and so, do we need a break?
Yeah, it's a break time, Surlana. And so let's break for a minute and let the Space Cadets take care of some business, refresh their drinks. And when we come back, we will have more on Stan Romanek.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Now here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Surlana.
All right, we're back. Hey, Space Cadets, do a roll call. Just say that you can hear us loud and clear, and everything is good in the neighborhood. So as we can try to continue on, in fact, the board looks good on our end, so try to refresh there, Ms. Shaw. Maybe there's something on your end. Speaking of my music, that was my music tonight.
I was asking you, I don't remember that one.
That's an actual new one. It's coming off the next album I'm producing called Unique Technique. And hopefully...
Which I still got to do the artwork for.
Yeah, you still have to do my artwork cover. But yeah, all the music you hear on Spaceboy Universe and Spaceboy Music is produced by me, and plus if you venture out into the universe, there's some shows out there that also have some of my music that they're playing in their shows. But yeah, you could definitely check that all music either on the universe or spaceboyuniverse.com or spaceboymusic.com. So let's continue.
I'll just point out that I've been busy revamping the website, making graphics, helping out Reverend John Polk.
Yeah, we've been
doing
really busy doing
research, so maybe that's why I haven't done artwork for you.
That's fine. I'm not bugging.
10 years, people. 10 years.
You do a great job. I'll recommend you for a promotion.
All right, your kneecaps are now safe.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. So when we were talking last, we were bringing up the fact that Stan has some disabilities.
Yeah.
But however,
and I point those out to contrast that, as he says, how would he be able to write these things that he did?
Right.
So, so he did the regression, and we're finding out he was on board this craft, and they talked to him telepathically, and he began to draw these symbols and equations and diagrams in his sleep. He did ask the female when these disasters would happen, but again, like I said, they're so vague, enigmatic.
It's your typical story that you get so often, where these aliens they preach at you to tell you gloom and doom if you don't change your ways here, or you got to do this, and yet they don't even give you a roadmap to try to fix
why
whatever.
They got to be so snotty?
Why they have snotty, vague? I mean, what's up with
aliens?
What's up with these aliens?
I'm not making fun of the situation.
Yeah,
it's just that seems typical from other recountings.
It seems we hear this story so many times in alien abductions where people get abducted and they're told, like in the Betty and Barney Hill incident.
That'll come into play
That'll come up later. But Betty was given information and she wanted to take a book and they told her no. And then, it was just, same kind of situation.
I guess I want to roll your eyes Yeah. But, so, he would write these equations and things, and he did send them in to scientists and experts, and he got back that some of them were talking about constellations, wormholes. One of them came to be the formula for element 115, which he wrote down 2 years before it was synthesized and, quote-unquote, discovered in Russia.
Exactly.
One of these things he wrote down in his sleep was... had to do with altering the shape of space to warp gravity. So it makes me think about warp drive.
We always go back to
which is warping space.
Once again, she points out the nerds that we are. Yes,
but does not Star Trek have sound scientific theories?
Star Trek has always been kind of based in science fact in the sense of what's coming down the pipe to make it a more realistic show. But I digress because tonight is about Stan.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's relevant to try to get our listeners to understand what these formulas are about, and that he doesn't know about them.
Right.
To write them.
I mean, he's just sketching it out. He's throwing it down on paper, and it's amazing.
Well, it's like they're trying to show him how they travel these interstellar distances and how we could do it if we've got these things. I guess it involves element 115, it involves warping gravity, it involves electromagnetism. He also wrote down the Drake equation.
Right.
Do you know what the Drake equation is?
Yes,
Can you explain it?
Thanks for putting me on the spot. But it's a formula for calculating the possibility of life in the universe? Yes.
But he wrote it down times 100.
100, exactly. So in other words, think of what we think is the possibility, and then multiply that times 100. So the universe is teeming with life.
So it's the possibilities they're pointing out the possibilities are greater than we even speculated.
Right.
So one of the other things he remembers, and this is, when we talk about Preston Dennett, when we had him on, we talked about the smell.
Oh, yes.
The smell of UFOs.
In fact, I brought that up. I was like, nobody really talks about the smell, and I think that's a great angle because then you can kind of filter out the abductions, whether or not they're, legitimate or not.
Well, maybe. I mean, if you can remember this stuff, if you're abducted and they don't take it from you.
I think it's just one more piece of arsenal to I guess, make a case,
But that sickeningly sweet medicinal smell from the aliens in the inside of their craft. Just wonder if they kind of smell like Dr. Tishner's or something. You remember that old
Who is
antiseptic?
it we were talking about? The sulfur smell as well?
Well, then you're talking about demons.
Well,
sulfur.
Well, I know I've heard that somewhere.
Sulfuric.
And it could be just...
But he said this smell was so strong it almost made him gag. But he said he figured out, he recreated it. He said it's the smell of Russian olive blossoms if you add a dab of rubbing alcohol. That's what it smells like. Well, I've never heard of Russian olive blossoms, but then I don't get out much, so I assume it's a tree or, But apparently all this was too much. He finally said, that's it. He's moving to Nebraska because he married Lisa in 2002, so he moves to Nebraska to be there with her so the kids can still go see their father because she is joint custody. So he moved June 2002, and Lisa got an odd email saying that it was good for Stan to move. It's probably in their best interest. They tried to, back trace that mail, and they never found the source.
Now, was this the one where, no, this is probably later, where they got the money to move, or that's when they moved to Colorado, right? Remember they got something in the mail, it was like... I
think that's... When they went back.
I think that, that's when they went
coming
back.
Up.
Yeah, that's...
I've got 7 pages of typed notes, so I may have to start compressing this for time.
I mean, because because Stan, in one of his videos he was talking about how there is just
There's more than he had.
So much wealth.
You're talking about just the book is over a decade's worth of information, not including what's happening since the book ended to right now. So... I kind of wanted to start hitting the highlights here. So he's moved to Nebraska, but none of this stops.
Right.
But that email said that the people upstairs know that Stan is a conduit for ET contact. Well, he's and that Stan is in danger, even though he thinks it's all a hoax. So they were frightened by that. So one night there was a bad storm while they're in Nebraska still, and they look up and he gets up to look at the storm, and it was really intense. So he went to tape it to see if anything else would show up. And then that's when he saw, after the fact on his recording, that there was a glowing red spinning object in front of their van. And at some point it came up to their lawn. And he didn't know this at the time, because he kind of think he'd take his camcorder, and it was sort of like he pulled it down from watching the sky, and it started to come up the front lawn, and at some point Stan had sneezed while he was trying to film the sky, and the thing reacted to his sneeze and backed off from the lawn. I thought that was kind of funny. So September 2002, the thing about the orbs, the little red orbs, their cats saw these things in the yard, and they would chase after them. So it wasn't like only he was seeing it. So September 3, 2002, Stan and Lisa woke up. They saw their alarm clock had been turned upside down. And in the night, he had done more math equations. They're even more advanced than the last ones. And these had to do with black holes and the constancy of the speed of lights. Again, that's like they're trying to tell us, this is how we're doing it. This is how you do it. This is how you do it.
And once again, I'm like blown away that Stan's sketching this stuff out, I think it's just another good example of, that something is feeding Stan's mind to sketch these things out.
It's coming from somewhere. And you know how we talked to David Adair?
Yes.
He said his ideas for the things, the engines he built, came from nowhere.
Right.
From dreams. It wasn't like he sat down and consciously thought about things. He just woke up and like, oh, here's this. So I don't know how this works, where you just get brilliant information from the ether. So I wish it would happen to me. make me some money. So after this, he had his second abduction. He was abducted, and this is where he came back. And he was in his underwear behind the duplex they were in. Mm-hmm. He had more of the scoop marks, and he had a bloody nose and a severe pain in his chest. The next morning, they find circular grass matted down, tamped down in their backyard. So his friends were there, and they help him get samples, and they document everything, with pictures and the samples. The pain he found out was from a broken rib. He was holding some stuff in his hand. He opened his hand, and they found these metallic particles, and it was bismuth. And they also found in the grass minute traces of meteor, which I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. So right after this incident, they found these equations written on a window and above their son's bed in the son's handwriting, and he was 8 years old at the time. They found ink stains on his hands, along with all these symbols that he wrote. They had to do with the force between objects representing rotation and travel through space. And another scribbling had to do with Bessel function, which is something to do with electromagnetic waves. So it's like, here it is, here's how you do it, here's how you do it. It seems like they're trying to hammer it home. So I think he had some more sporadic activity after his second abduction. And then it would kind of come regularly. He notes that there was 3 categories he saw. A silver craft, the red glowing soccer ball, and the large disc. So those were like the 3 main ones. So in 2003, he sees his first triangle. Now, you and I have read and heard about classic triangle-shaped UFOs, right?
And it's been more evident, after the millennial.
And they all have a point of light in each of the vertices. Mm-hmm. And this seems to be like the new craft, the new UFO craft,
right. And
the latest model.
We've heard different things, one of which being a time machine. Mm-hmm. And
that was... Maybe we should do a show on that, because that was a Linda Moulton Howe thing. That irked me.
Oh, really?
That really irked me. That guy, he didn't do himself
a favor. Right. Yeah. Well, we can
talk about different things here.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later.
Well, he sees the triangular shape. He's out driving. I think it was at night. So I believe there's also other witnesses. He said it was large, hard to miss. It was pacing his van. And these points of light were in that, the triangle shape. But then after a while, the 3 lights broke off and did a different configuration. He says, kind of like think of the shape of the Orion's belt, like that slanted. And I believe it was large, and he saw more craft, I believe. Now, I don't know if you'd like to talk about this, because I've been talking a lot. And my throat's getting tired. Sorry, that's my, I hit the mic on my thing. April 2003, Stan thinks they have a peeping Tom at their, I guess it's still at their duplex.
Well, the interesting thing about that is I think that's kind of what really probably brought Stan to the forefront. So I guess it was some night that he had the stepson had friends over, and he believed that they were having doing some kind of...
That's different.
Okay, then
that's different.
Okay, not the Boo video?
That, I think, is later. Yeah, that's in July.
Okay, then...
This is April. He thinks there's a peeping Tom. And he's got 2 young stepdaughters, or twins, so he thought maybe that's what the draw was. Mm-hmm. So he said he thought he saw a figure at the window, and he tore off outside to catch the person. He just thought it was just some guy or kid. They didn't catch anybody, so somebody suggested, why don't you just set up a surveillance there? So he set up a webcam to catch this. Still think it's a human, it's just some perv, and he decides he's going to test it to see if it's working overnight one night. And so he thought maybe if anything happened, he'd catch their cats moving around or something. Instead, he caught a red orb moving through his house and going to his bedroom, which is creepy.
Right. And it was doing different angles, of course, which some people...
The video, it looks like a solid object.
In fact, I think what I recall of this was that somebody said that, well, it's probably a laser or something like that that's going through the house or anything like that. And when somebody said, I thought that was kind of... I don't think you really did your due diligence, because it really doesn't... I mean, although it's bright like a laser, the thing is that it's not moving like a laser. It's moving like an orb.
Is go get a laser and try to recreate the circumstances. Have they done that?
That reminds me of a show that I love so much that we don't...
Get the name right, though.
Fact or Fate.
Okay. Because Fact or Crap is a game that you could go buy and play. Well, you get these mixed up.
I had many times I'd watch that show and get frustrated.
Called it Fact or Crap.
Because, they... Once again, I don't really think that they were out for more to just to debunk the situation, and that leads into a lot of the Stan situation where you get these debunkers that are.
And I'm going to get into that.
And I know because
I'm kind of trying to speed this up.
And the only reason I bring up the laser again is one of those situations where I've read where somebody was saying that that's just a laser or whatever. Well, get up,
go recreate it.
Go recreate it. Don't just say it's easy for you to
wait till nighttime.
Sunday
get your
quarterback
camcorder,
this thing.
Get your laser out.
Actually do some investigation and don't just sit there and eat your bucket of chicken and drool out the side of your mouth and say, yeah, that's just a laser. Those things, that gets my goat. That does.
Lots of things get your goat.
Yeah. So anyway, that's when it gets my goat.
Well, so this is the famous peeping alien video, which you can easily find on YouTube. So he finally does get the culprit in the window, and it is supposedly a peeping Tom, and I will get to the debunkers after all this. So
sure.
I'm not going to get into that right now. But want to point out, he did say that window was 7 feet up off the ground.
Right.
So either somebody's going to be over 6 feet or on a ladder. And there's no way...
possibly two-man person other than Stan outside?
Maybe
working this since it's high up. I mean, if it's one, the ladder, of course, but possibly two people outside working it.
Could be. We'll get into that.
Right. I'm just saying.
We'll get both sides of that. I just want to get through the history, and like I said, we're talking about a decade's worth of incidences, and I'm probably going to miss something. I'm just picking out the highlights
and
here.
We apologize because it's a great story. And
like I said, we could do 2 or 3 shows probably on this, on just one incident, and go back and forth, or Okay. So after the peeping Tom thing, I think things calmed down a little bit, and then, but in July, oh good, you caught that. It came back, or something came back.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sorry. I think it took 3 months to get the peeping Tom, right? He saw something in the window. He got the camcorder out. He said it blinked. And he says, okay, if it blinked, it can't be just a mask. Like I said, it's 7 feet off the ground. He went out there. There's no evidence of a ladder, like, marks in the ground. He saw 2 bright flashes of light before it showed up.
Mm-hmm.
They nicknamed him Boo.
Right.
He said he did see it run off, and it was about the size of a child, I guess.
And I think it's important to add a little humor here that Stan really knows how to jump and dance from a window. It was amusing to see his reaction.
Well, I was trying not to jump ahead, but one of the things I read on a blog, and if you want these individual sites, I have them all saved. I have everything saved, links that I went to research this, and of course Stan's book is on Amazon. One of these debunker blog sites said, oh man, Stan is a terrible actor. Well, I think the thing we want to get across is he's not an actor. He's just a guy.
That's
having a silly reaction.
Right.
I don't think there's any point that Stan claimed to be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
That gets my goat.
Nah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you in that sense.
I've been hanging around you too much.
But I mean, yeah, it was another example of somebody coming out of the woodwork and saying, just coming up with something off the top of the head because they can't possibly wrap their mind of the possibility that this could actually be true.
Mm-hmm. But this is where he becomes more famous now because this video is out there.
It is out there.
So he decided he'd get a survey system. He got better cameras to. It's like, oh well, now I guess we better start really filming this.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing they get when they get the updated equipment is another orb in the yard, and the cats chase it. October 2003, I believe this is his third abduction. So now I thought this was interesting. Why do they bring him back and leave him outside, nearly naked or naked?
Mm-hmm.
He thinks that they do this on purpose so he cannot dismiss the experience as a bad dream. Like, it's irrefutable that he's outside naked at night.
But with no memories.
Yeah.
I mean, that's messed up. I could think of another word to put there, but that is messed up.
But we try to do PG-13 here.
Yeah, to drop somebody literally buck naked in outside, I mean, in like, how did I get here, and oh crap, it's them aliens doing this to me again. I mean, I would be furious, if they had done that to me, like it just dropped me off outside, and I guess, was it cold at the time? I guess.
Well, it's October in Colorado, so I've never been there.
Well, I can imagine it's a lot cooler and maybe some snow there. We can ask our friend of the show, Gordon, next
snow?
Time. Snow. It's like when
people keep saying the word snow. I don't know what that is.
When they freeze water and then they shave off the hardness.
Oh wow, cool. So I thought that was an interesting theory he had. But this, so he's out there, he's cold, and again, this time he's not harmed. He's got a little bloody nose, but he said it took a while to get Lisa awake to let her in, and I think she thought, for the most part, some of this stuff was hysterical. They had before he got taken, he had heard a voice calling out "Mom" in what he thought was his stepson's name.
Right.
And they got a bright light. Now, this is interesting. You might want to talk about this just to give me a rest. On camera, outside, one of their exterior cameras, they got a bright light that exploded right next to the house. And it seemed like it was coming from above, straight down. The ground showed steam and vapor coming up off it. And the camera picked that up. These little bubbles floating downward from above the house. And there was another flash, and the camera went dark. The camera's out.
So what we have is that next day, Stan goes out to investigate, and he finds that on the side of the house, there's this white circle, I guess right below where the camera was, and it's devoid of dirt or anything. It's as white as it can be. And I guess it shows a circle out on the lawn. I guess the grass had been changed to some degree.
Catch up with you Monday too.
And so I kind of going to speed forward. Is later on what we find out is another day Stan wakes up to construction going on the outside. And what we find out is this construction crew of, I guess, a couple of guys are taking down the siding off the house, and they claim that they've been brought there or been sent there by the landlord. Of course, Stan, immediately tries to get a hold of the landlord and is unable to get a hold of him. And of course, Stan, which is really awesome for him to think of this in advance, is to go ahead and document the situation by filming these guys. He tries to get them in front of the camera. He's kind of hidden. But he tries to face them and ask them what the date is. He wants to know if he could take a little sample of the material, and they say, no, we need this to prove that we did the work for your landlord. And, of course, but Stan manages to get a piece somehow and out of the way, and come to find out, the men that were there working, he tried to call the company. It didn't exist. The landlord also came along and said, hey, I didn't send anybody out there, so...
But what's weird about it is while they were doing the sighting, they're only replacing the sighting where the light was shown. And the thing that was odd about the sighting was when this beam came down, it made that part of the sighting bright white, and the rest of it was like, aged, dingy from just, being there.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. When they sent the sample away to get tested, they didn't find.
They couldn't figure it out.
Well,
the camera was charred and melted, and so they're only replacing this specific thing as sighting. They said, your landlord ordered this. He said, can I have a piece of it? They said, no, do not touch this. We need all of it to prove to your landlord we did replace it.
At the end of the conclusion of this situation, what you have is you have people that come out that don't want to talk to Stan directly. They're kind of hiding their faces.
They wouldn't look him in the eye.
Yeah, they wouldn't look him in the eye.
They wouldn't touch the camera. He went up there in a ladder to remove the camera himself, and he was going to hand it down to one of the guys so he could get down the ladder with both his hands. They wouldn't touch it. It was like they wrapped their shirt around it like they didn't want their fingerprints on anything.
Right.
And they shop vacuumed his grass.
Yes, of all things. Can you imagine the detail of going through and vacuuming somebody's grass to make sure you get all the particulates off the ground? And I mean, it's one of those weird situations where you have people that you can't even trace down the company. It doesn't exist.
Just so weird.
Just a lot of weird things. And then
they said they were from Bob's Sighting. He calls that number. They don't exist.
The landlord, disavows knowledge of that he sent somebody out there, and it's just a crazy thing.
He says this is strategic evidence destroying.
And on that note, let's take another break.
I'm going to get some water.
Yes, you get some water, and here's another classic from the vault called Night Owl.
Oh, love it, love it.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Now here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Surlana.
That was Night Owl, another Spaceboy classic now. It's been some time since I wrote that one, but I enjoy it a lot. You've seen the idea, or you've heard me talk about the idea of a video.
And if I knew how to do that, I would do it for you, but I can't.
But anyway, good stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of things that happen over a large span of time, and of course I didn't get to them all. I'm sure I'm going to miss something, but I want to talk about one more thing, and we can get to some back and forth stuff.
And before you do that, I encourage all the space cadets out there to look into the story. It's a great story. Stan and Lisa are great people, and it's worth your time to get to know the story personally. So please continue. So on.
Last thing I'm going to get into from the kind of the historic. Sorry, I keep hitting my mic. Is okay. So it's winter 2004. He has this. Somebody gave him this joke shirt that says, "I've been abducted by aliens, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt." Well, a friend gave him that, just as kind of funny. So he was wearing that to bed one night. So I went to bed, and he woke up because he heard Lisa coughing. So it's like, well, might as well get up, go to the bathroom. And when he got up to do that, he couldn't hardly walk. He was like, I don't know if he tripped over something, or he noticed that he was wearing something different. He was wearing a woman's flannel nightgown that was way too small for him. Also, it had a weird, cold, sticky spot on the lower back.
Right.
So they said, turn on the light. I can't see can't see this. So they turn the light on, and he's wearing that flannel nightgown. It has a Disney character on it.
Right.
So they're trying to get it off, and I think Lisa thinks this is hysterical. So they try to get the nightgown off.
Yeah, because he's trying to get it off like, ooh, it's got something sticky on it. And
Yeah. He sent it off, and they said it was some kind of expander that they used for proteins and in vitro fertilization. What's it's doing down there on his back, I don't know. But he now had 3 deep puncture marks in one hip. So what they found out later is that he had talked about this at one of his lectures, and he was approached by Betty Hill's niece, and she asked about the nightgown. She says, "Can you describe that nightgown?" He's like, "Yeah, it was a flannel nightgown, and it had a Disney character on it." Well, she said before her aunt Betty Hill passed away, she had been, I guess, abducted or taken one more time, and she was angry because they took her favorite nightgown that had Mickey Mouse on it or something like that. So I'm kind of immediately started wondering, and then he does say that the niece said Betty did find that his gag shirt in her stuff. Didn't think anything of it because she thought maybe she got it at a convention.
Right.
And, all her stuff was given to Goodwill after she passed. So trying to imagine him coming back in her nightgown and her coming back in his shirt.
Now, this is not uncommon to hear in ufology of abductees where they come back, well, they get abducted wearing a certain clothing item, and then they come back with their clothes not with the same clothes, or their clothes put on backwards.
So they're just putting them in any old thing they could find.
Exactly.
Like, okay, whose was this? It don't matter, just put that on them.
But I think it's fascinating, the possibility that that it could be Betty's clothing, and of course
that means it's the same ones.
Right. They kind of
from the 50s. Yeah.
Well, no, it could be a modern set of aliens that Stan has been interacting with, and it just so happens that Betty at that time have been in contact with those same aliens that Stan has been with. So they are dealing with all these threats, high strangeness, being stalked by unmarked SUVs, having the house watch, phone taps. These SUVs a lot of times had no plates, no tags, and if you walked up to the car, they'd speed away. They got this, what stood out to me was they got this mysterious message
that said if they want to get it right, they have to rethink the Rosen Bridge. Now, what does that say to you?
The Einstein-Rosen bridge. Yes, basically, it's a wormhole in essence, is what you're talking about, connecting 2 points in space and traveling through a tunnel.
So I think at this point they decided to move back, and this is where you were talking about. They got the card with the $40 bills.
In fact, yeah,
in Colorado when they came back.
Right. So they got like a little parting gift and $40, and I'm sure that they were kind of like, okay, that's freaky, but hey, thanks for the money. Buy some beef jerky on the way to Buc-ee's.
So they had they moved back to Colorado. And I think at this point, I want to say he had been beaten, out on the street in front of witnesses, verbally threatened by mail, email, phone, shot at.
He actually got a chance to get one on one of the guys. He had a chain on his
bike, yeah.
And took a whack at him and knocked him out cold. And I think Stan, which goes to show what kind of character Stan is, that he actually, even though he whipped this guy.
Was scrappy, yeah.
He felt bad in the sense, I hope he wasn't dead or anything. He hope he didn't kill him, because they dragged that guy away. But yeah, he was beaten up pretty good.
Okay, I got to type something.
But anyway, yeah. So yeah.
Sorry about that. I need to tell somebody. Quit that. Now I want to talk about the debunkers, or the ones that I found trying to do this research.
Sure. Now, before you go further, there's, like I said, there is so much more along this case of different things. I wanted to talk briefly about Audrey.
I couldn't. Yeah, time. Just couldn't get.
As you've probably heard, our breaks, and we call one character named Savannah that does the commercials and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have a voice that's from a speech text creator.
Text-to-speech.
Text-to-speech, which the name of the character is called Audrey. And I've known about this particular speech thing because AT&T is the one that developed the text-to-speech, and they offered it at some point, and I eventually purchased it for my own use for music and writing commercials.
That's called Audrey, yeah.
To expedite it. I expedited. So when I heard the voice initially, I didn't hear the part where they actually, that's where they heard it also from a text-to-speech editor, that they called it Audrey, and I thought it was just interesting. And they got many phone calls from Audrey. And as they called her.
Yeah, when they moved back, Audrey called him and said, it's great that you're back in Colorado, but maybe it's not such a great move. You're in their backyard now. It's easy for them to get to you. Right. There's a video, as part of his lecture video, he mentions that, or he shows in a video that they get bombarded by some kind of signal. All the speakers in their house are emitting this high-pitched, loud sound. He thinks they were getting bombarded with microwave.
Right. There's also a thing where they had the, I guess, an implant of some kind, where it was in a test tube, and he told Lisa to put it somewhere, hide it, and
he couldn't find it.
And they put it in. She actually put it in a boom box. Didn't have any batteries. It wasn't hooked up. And it started emitting the signal and shattered the particles. So there's lots of this that's going on, high strangeness once again, and just ramping up. And so I just wanted to bring those little things to light because there's so much more there. And I encourage everybody to read the book.
You get the book, and his YouTube video covers it briefly, but you'll get a little bit more detail if you do that. I also read her book, Lisa's book, but like I said, this was maybe a year or two ago. So I wouldn't have time to read them all in prep for this, but her book gives you the insights of what it's like to be married to somebody that's having this happen to him, having this happen to the family. I believe they may have taken her as well, and what her feelings were like, because apparently what had happened was, they take him, and they took some other people, and they took his sperm, and they took other women's eggs, and they made babies. And I believe Stan and Lisa know one or two of the other women and got to be friends with them. Well, she talks about, I believe, how it felt like a betrayal. even though it wasn't Stan's idea to do any of this. But also kind of guess feels like you're being cheated on, but it wasn't his choice. And all her feelings about all of these goings on. Her book is called From My Side of the Bed. And also they have a book just about his regression sessions. And again, so that's like 2 more shows right there.
Right, exactly.
So I wanted to get into what's going on since then with the debunkers. So most of the things that I found about the debunking are only talking about the peeping alien. They're not talking about necessarily everything that's happened.
Because it's at that point when in that 2008 video or during that time that the Boo video really ramps up. So I guess you go from being a small target to a huge target because it's so incredible of a video. Because, you know, it's so many times where we say we live in an age where we have 4K cameras and all we can get is a blurry picture of a UFO. I mean, and then somebody comes along and it looks really good and impressive, and
then it's like, oh, it's just too good. They're using
it's photoshopped.
They're using equipment because they're staged, and it's the reason it's so good. So it's like you got to find a way for it to be good enough to be seen, but bad enough to make it believable. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But most of the debunkers are talking about the window thing. But I just remembered that another perspective is that I heard Stephen Greer talk about some of the aliens that they have gotten, that Romaneks have gotten on camera.
I was listening to one of Stephen Greer's talks, and my ears, you know, I wasn't listening for a Stan thing, but just right in the middle of it, there was Stan Romanek. He brings up his name, and I was like, what, you know, and but you were going to say.
He was saying that somebody told him that the little gray characters are something our government created to fake alien encounters, so people would get upset, be afraid, and it would be in our consciousness that this is the enemy, so we can go to war.
Once again,
that's part of a larger conspiracy.
Yeah, I was going to say you get that in a different tangent in the UFO community where the actual our actual government is abducting citizens for experiments and all this other things, and so you do get that sense that where you hear stories where they actually created these biological robots, if you will. So,
kind of like Data, in a way.
Data, but organic.
Organic, yeah. So one of the things I found out is this site which deals with special effects. They're talking about the peeping alien. He said, this debunker says, well, the eyelids, which are supposed to be the convincing feature, they do blink, but they blink like the movement was made with a servo motor. Watch it carefully and you'll see that the head movements are controlled from below the window frame, the same frame that hides the kid holding the stick. So I'm thinking, okay, this sounds kind of stupid. Recreate it. If this is a special effects website, get everything you just said and recreate it. Do the exact same circumstances, the window, the camera.
Just like the guy back in
do it. Show us all how you did it.
Remember how they had the magician that showed how to do the tricks?
Yeah.
And, you know, well, put your money where your mouth is and show us
how it's done. Show us the prep, show us the execution, show us what's going on after, you know. Don't just sit there with a blog and an opinion. Put your money where your mouth is and say, okay, here's the video. Here's how we're going to recreate it. Kind of like that, fact or fake. So another site says, okay, it's a head on a stick. How do they know it's a stick?
Because there's no
elaborate.
No evidence of seeing any. It doesn't, you know.
Now I'm not familiar with special effects. I don't know about puppetry. I don't know the terminology these two fields would use. But the previous website and this website have the same phrase. They say, the head of this alien doesn't pivot on an atlas. Is that common terminology, or did they just copy each other?
Right.
That puts me a little...
I get put off by the copy-paste debunkers who... they're just trying to be so smart about the situation.
But I understand what they're trying to say is the head doesn't swivel independently. It's like the whole body moves. So they're trying to say that makes it like a static doll or puppet. I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep hitting my mic. they're saying that the biggest evidence of the hoax is when the puppet turns, you can see the controller shift their weight in order to get the next bit of script on the film. Well, okay, if this thing is 7 feet up, the window, they'd have to be on a ladder. Can you do a lot of shifting your weight on a ladder while you're not holding on to it?
Ladder, but there's also, I was just thinking about this being, have family in construction where they have, I guess, instead of a ladder, it's a flat surface, and it'll come to me later, like most things do.
Scaffolding type thing?
Scaffolding, exactly. Thank you. And maybe they could be standing on that, but that's once again, that's an extreme amount of work to put into something like this. And once again, we look at Stan's previous history. We don't see a thing where he's out to fake anything.
Well, here's what I guess I'm kind of blending these two things here. All right. He's got all this documentation up to this point and some witnesses.
Right.
Maybe that one thing could be faked. Sure. Maybe he did. I don't know. But why put his family through all this?
Right. That's another prime example of why would he do that? I mean,
unless he's got a fame addiction or something, can't help it. But I don't think that a wife would allow this unless they thought they were going to get something out of it. And if they have kids, my instinct to say is they're not going to invite this upon their family.
One, I don't see that Stan is the kind of person, based upon what I've seen, that I've heard that he's out for fame for this. I think he's just been one of those people that, hey, this is what happens.
I think he'd be happy to have this go away. But another one of these debunkers says, this is easily to debunk with a little scrutiny. Like, okay, if it's so easy, do it. Type me up an essay. Tell me in each instance, in each detail, how it's done. Recreate it. That's all you got to do. Don't just sit there with a blog and an opinion. Put your money where your mouth is. This says the encounters are suspicious. Romanek says he says a peeping Tom catches the evidence. There's no law enforcement and no concern for safety. There's the fact an alien who's smart enough to create an interplanetary system of space travel isn't smart enough to not be caught on film. I don't think the aliens care at this point.
I think that, once again, if you're an alien from another planet, you can't apply a human, how a human would react in a certain circumstances.
Another blog site starts out their debunking with a spelling error. Okay, right there, you've lost me. You can't even spell correctly. I'm done.
All in full disclosure, Surlana is an English major, so she knows her.
Yeah, there's a reason I'm a snob about it.
Yes.
Okay. This other site says, Stan's a terrible actor. He never claimed to be an actor. I think that reaction is fairly genuine. Or he would not. I wouldn't think he chose to act so silly.
Right.
They claim that Stan had enough time in 30 seconds to position and move the puppet around. Do they realize it's 7 feet off the ground?
And that's when I said that they are full of stuffing. And there is no way that I could imagine Stan going from that room and then zooming all the way outside and getting around and then...
Well, unless he did video editing, to pause and... I'm trying to advocate both sides.
You're trying to play the devil's advocate, and we both agree on that. I think, I guess this is where my personal opinion, I'm playing the part of defending Stan on this one. I just don't see that.
But you know what? I mean, it's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to say you're debunking. But if all of us, the entire public of the world, need an authoritative opinion on debunking, you're going to have to get experts like they pull for a trial.
Right.
Are you an expert on astrophysics? Are you an expert on special effects? Are you an expert on puppetry and all this stuff? Get us those people, recreate the circumstances, film everything with your full disclosure. Nobody's doing that. So I went to rense.com, RENSE.com.
Yeah.
This woman called Dana Tybalt I'm not sure how I'm supposed to say that. She's a researcher that said she was one of the first ones to look into Stan's equations seriously.
Mm-hmm.
She said Stan is only mildly dyslexic, whereas Stan says he's severely dyslexic. So, if she got it wrong, I just thought that was a little detail that...
One, he's still dyslexic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I look at it. So, am I getting ahead of that, or are we?
We're getting into that.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, come up to speed with today and what's happening with Stan now, what he's being accused of. There was a video interview I found recently with Stan, and Lisa's on it later, and I'm not familiar with Peter Maxwell Slattery. Sorry, I just learned him when I did this research.
Actually, I'm familiar with what she's about to talk about, though.
Do you want to take it?
Well, I want to point out that you have to, at some point, Stan has an interview with him and creates a situation which makes him look kind of foolish. It makes him look like, okay, he's been faking this the whole time. How can we believe this? So I guess everybody comes down on Stan like a ton of bricks and saying, oh, he's just faking this. I can't believe I wasted my time listening to this guy and watching this guy. And then, of course, we go forward in time to this video that Surlana is going to talk about and pick it up there.
Well, in this... I'm kind of going back because they reference another video they'd done previously with this Slattery guy. So in this video, Stan and Lisa say, or Stan says, that he'd been threatened. He'd got calls that say, if you want to keep yourself, your friends, and your family alive, you need to discredit yourself and do it now. And they gave him specific instructions on how to do that. Okay, so... I didn't watch this because it's pressed for time. You had told me about this video on YouTube, same show, Peter Maxwell Slattery, where Stan had said something during the interview about something with a pen.
Yeah, the pen kind of flew off into a different direction, and he said, "Did you see that?" You know, kind of chalking it up to like being paranormal, but obviously when you're watching it, you see Stan is actually doing the trickery here. And, you know, it's important that I say that now because, I mean, it's clear that Stan, in that moment, it seemed like everything that had led up to that point that gave him a certain truth behind his story just went out the window because you had all these debunkers and all these skeptics.
Now he's called into question.
He's being called out now because how can we believe him? And then, you know... that's where, if you want to pick it up from there.
Yeah. Well, he said that was part of, he had to say he faked some things or he had to do some things to discredit himself, and he was nervous. He'd been told and threatened they would reverse the charges if he started to do this, but they haven't yet. So these people that called and threatened him know details about his life, where his wife is at any given moment, what she's doing, what their friend, I guess it was Victoria, another if this is the same abductee, they know her social security number, and they know all these details that they can use to ruin lives or take out lives. So I'm going to put this link in the chat. People can just grab this link and go get this. So this is the link where he supposedly destroys his own credibility, Peter Slattery Maxwell. So he said he had to do that as part of a campaign to discredit himself to try to keep his friends and family alive. So he was in a panic, and he's scared, and he felt the threats are real. So Lisa comes on later to say, and this is I was thinking this before I saw her say this. Why would Stan or herself do something that's so morally corrupt and illegal as having naked pictures and videos of kids on their computer when they have a decade of being watched, being under surveillance, being threatened?
And people, like I was talking about earlier, you know, we were talking about people witnessing things, people witnessing people taking over Stan's computer.
From remote,
you know, and I want to point this out right now.
As an IT person, what you're talking about.
Exactly. That's just what I was about to do.
Because we both work in IT.
as a guy that's working on the front line in the IT department business, I have seen many things, and I know many things of how to do things. And
don't you remote access every other day?
I have remote access computers to fix computers without the end user even knowing that I'm in their computer fixing it, or to resolve a situation. But of course, it always comes back down to ethics with me and honesty, and So
plus, you're not interested in anything anybody's got on their computer.
No,
that's boring.
I'm just there to make it, get a check. I'm just trying to fix things, but it's in this day that we live in that from what we've seen with Snowden and all these other people that have been in government, it is not too far to believe that something put that there.
Well, yeah, that's what another link to this other website debunker said. Mm-hmm. Why would the government bother setting up a known hoaxer? Has it been established by credible people in the fields that they need to be in to discredit? I mean, he hasn't been called out as a known hoaxer by anybody credible, like you would put on a witness stand. And point me to a website where that says that. Also, I believe our government is capable of anything.
And speaking of that, let's go ahead and take our bottom of the hour break.
Man, already? Yeah, it's going fast.
It is. I mean, there is so much information here. It is crazy.
We could just do calls when we come back.
Yeah, in fact, we could do some calls, but I do want to finish up the train of thought here.
We're about done. I have observations.
So let's play one of my favorites, My Wife to Time Travel, based upon Surlana.
Yeah, it's about me.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Now here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Surlana.
Indeed we are. So some night you must tune in, audience, space cadets, to figure out or to understand why my wife is the time traveler. And you can do that Thursday nights with spaceboymusic.com, where I pull music out of my vault and play it for you. So yeah, spaceboymusic.com, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So, Surlana, let's make some
final observations. They, like I said, they have a over 10-year history of evidence. The whole thing with his brace when he was going to have that ACL surgery, Lisa recorded the conversation with the doctor covertly.
Better call Ghostbusters, and I'm like scratching my head.
Oh,
like,
man,
what does this guy know anything beyond?
Again, on the other side, could that be fake? Sure,
but once again, you would.
Why
think,
would they go to the trouble?
Here is a medical. Stan has a medical thing going on. His main doctor tells him, "You better get to the hospital because you're going to be crippled for the rest of your life." He ends up showing them, and they're baffled. They can't understand the situation. So yes,
yeah. But again, why would they go to all this trouble over this length of time? Why would they drag their family through that? It's just, first of all, it just doesn't seem logical. I don't know him. I don't know her. But just trying to step back, if they've got 3 young kids, I'm sure they may have been grown by a certain time, but why put them through that? So, and even Stan admits some of this can be faked. But why put them in the limelight? Why make himself a laughing stock, expose his family? Could he be lie about being a dyslexic? Probably, but he could probably be tested. We could get that. A lot of these things, if you want to debunk it, let's see it. Recreate the circumstances from these videos. Show us your entire process. Put your money where your mouth is. Don't just hide behind a blog.
Don't go with the fake or what is it again? That show, the fact or fake method, where actually do your due diligence and try to legitimately try to debunk it. I think you'll be hard pressed to come up with the evidence to do it. Now, it's at this point where I've watched Stan this whole time prior to the Boo video, and then all that after, and all the circumstances that fall in after that. And there's a part of me that I feel a deep compassion for Stan, because we see the energy he has, especially in that one seminar where he's talking about his experiences, and you see quite a different Stan when he's talking the
second time with the Slattery
exactly
show.
And it just my personal opinion is that my heart goes out to Stan, and of course Lisa as well. They've gone through an awful lot, and I don't really think that they really wanted this, and they've tried to do the best they could dealing with it, but it's clear that Stan is really depressed about his current circumstances.
It's taking a toll on him, I think, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we want to say is, go out there, do your own research in this, read their books, read what the debunkers say, read every aspect of it, and make up your own mind, as always.
And I think that we're just telling you, okay, at the end of the day,
this is what we read, this is what they've said, this is what these people say, and this is what's going on.
And by all means, once you, I think, read it for yourself. It's like a good guy that I once, or one of my favorite idols, and I know we got somebody on the phone.
Yes, but they're a loyal.
Jim Mars has always said that don't believe what I'm telling you. Go out there and find the evidence yourself. Find the truth, because the truth is out there on this one. And I think that at the end of the day that you will concur with a lot of what we've come across and said. And on that note, how are you, K28?
I'm fine. How are you and Surlana?
We are fantastic.
Exhausted.
How are the Fadernauts doing? Or I should say the Space Cadets?
Well, I don't know about the Fadernauts, but the Space Cadets are doing absolutely fabulous out there. They've been just going on, and it's been quite a night looking at the chat room.
Yeah, I've been there. I called in because I watched the so-called Boo video.
And what are your thoughts on it?
Well, the one I saw was about 2 minutes long. Is that right?
There's, I guess, a shortened to the point video, and then there's probably one a little bit longer.
There's one where Stan's like getting it all, kind of set up.
Yeah, and kind of dancing
I don't know
around
if
the
that
room.
was edited down. Yeah, was that just the highlights, or was that the live unedited? I'm not sure.
Well, I believe that from what I could remember is that they probably edited it down for time, but I don't think it was like a production thing where they cut commercials in or anything like that. I think that it was just a one shot kind of deal.
Yeah, because when I was watching it, he set it up, then he said he was going to go to bed, and then then there's a couple flashes.
Yeah, that was
interesting. Then you see the head come up a couple times, right?
Yes, and kind of blink.
And then just a few seconds later, he came back, and he looked out the window, and he jumped back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I saw in the video.
Kind of.
So I was wondering what he saw. Well, what did he see outside? Is it well lit out there?
Well,
because I know that in my house, I have to turn the lights off to see outside in the dark. So I'm not sure what he was able to see outside in a well-lit bit.
From what he describes, Kay, is that he did see the alien run off. So
I'm assuming he ran or opened the door and ran out or went a little ways.
Yeah. And I can only imagine there must have been some light out there, but not enough light to illuminate everything. But those flash of lights were interesting. I guess he described it.
Before it showed up, there was some bright flashes. It was like as bright as the sun.
Yeah. So.
I thought like he took a picture or something. That's what I thought. But then I heard your comments, and it sounded like the flashes were outside.
In fact, the conditions were a full moon that night, so that probably was some good light out there.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. And then the creature, whatever you want to call it, it didn't look gray at all. It looked kind of brownish color.
Yeah, it looks like fleshy tone.
Well, you got to take into account that it was filming
was
at
night vision?
Night vision filming, yeah.
So was it true to color?
True to color, yeah.
Oh, it was a special kind of night vision camera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe the room lights were off?
Yeah.
Motion activated.
Motion activated, yeah.
Oh, okay. So that would explain why he could see outside. I thought he had the room lights on or something. So,
I don't think so.
No, I don't think
so.
The room lights were on. I think it was dark and
okay.
And then of course
that would explain it. Okay.
Yeah.
I would encourage you to read the book, but I'm not sure how you do that.
There's different methods that you should.
We do have another call coming in. Kay, do you have any final thoughts you want to get in, or?
Yeah, hopefully he'll be proven out so that Stan and Lisa will be vindicated on this. So.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed.
Thank you, Kay.
Thanks, Kay.
Oh, you're welcome. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Caller, second caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
And caller, who's this?
This is Stan Romanek.
Oh, my goodness. How are you, Stan?
Hello, Stan.
I'm doing good. Oh, well, I'm a little under the weather. I'm kind of recovering from food poisoning.
Oh, no.
Oh, was it a deliberate, or did you do it to yourself?
Well, we went to a wedding, and a few of us caught it there somewhere. But I'm doing good. I'm pretty much over it now.
Well, good.
Was it seafood? That's usually what gets you.
It could have been a burrito, for all I know.
Well, Spaceboy here has been through that about 2 years ago with food poisoning.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, that was awful. We went to the ER with him. It was that bad. Yeah, so we know what that's like.
I wanted to call in and thank you. I appreciate both sides. And thank you for doing a show on me. It's been kind of very scary lately, and it's nice to hear somebody doing stuff about us that isn't negative.
Well, we're trying to do it from an analytical point of view. You've got a history where you've documented in all kinds of ways this stuff going on prior to what's happening to you now. So it doesn't match up that you would call attention to yourself or do something like this that's going to further put you and your family through this kind of scrutiny and these allegations. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It didn't come across, from what I've seen over your history, Stan, that you would be that kind of person that is out for attention, and it just. I just get this feeling about you that you're just, that's not you.
If you did have that problem, I would think Lisa would get you somewhere to get help with that. I mean, but,
number one, she wouldn't put up with it. Number two.
No, I don't get that from her, yeah.
The debunkers say, you're doing this for attention, or you're doing this for money. Well, everybody knows that nobody makes money in this field.
Mm-mm.
And who would want this kind of attention? I mean, look what's happening to me now. I've got a corrupt Brady-listed detective going after me. These guys are trying to shut me down, and that's really what this is all about.
I did read some of that. I didn't see what the things that he had been accused of. It was it was links off of your site, I believe. I was trying to read about, what was his name, Loveland or Coop?
Yeah, Loveland, Colorado. His name is Detective Koopman.
And
this guy
has
is
been taken away. Yeah.
He's Brady listed. He's known as a liar, and he fabricates things. And he actually was he almost got charged with a felony, but his cop buddies came in and scared the people in the stand and everything. So he got off that. But it's a tough road. I'm just here to help wake up people. Me and my wife. You were talking about the time when I got scared and did something stupid, and that was absolutely true. And what you didn't mention, and a very close friend of ours died of a mysterious something, and we got a call the next day saying, "See, this will happen to you if you don't do what we say." And that's really what scared me, because of my friend's death. Because I still believe they killed my friend.
It's scary, Stan. I can't even fathom being in that situation. But it's kind of like I guess if anything we can part with you is that there are people out there that are aware of your story, and I am going to say that I am one that I based on the evidence, there's doubt in my mind that of what has gone down that you're being accused of, and
you've got too much out there documentation prior to this, and again, why would you do this when you know people or whoever they are monitoring your every move? It's not a smart thing.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, and we have proof. Once this is all said and done, the government can do whatever they want. They can do. It's amazing how corrupt the system is. Oh my God, what we are learning just about our local government, this area is probably one of the most corrupt in the country. And the police that are getting away with murder, these guys, they monitor themselves. If there's a bad cop, who investigates? The police department they're in. If there's a bad judge, the judge has to take himself out. There is nothing higher to take them out. And that's what we're experiencing. We're experiencing, a bunch of bad people, somewhat religious. And look, I'm religious too, but they don't like what I'm talking about. And that's,
Is it because they don't want the disclosure? They want to keep that silent, or is it some other reason? Or
no, they think I'm the devil, basically. And that could be one of the possibilities. I can't even say it's the government for sure. It could be local government. It could be anything. But when this is all said and done, the truth will get out.
Yes. Well, Stan, I know that you're under a lot of things that you can't talk about, and but at some point, and I kind of mentioned this in the chat room that when you do reach a certain level of freedom, we would love to have you back on and talk to you more in depth about your story and get you, get our audience caught up on you. And like I said, you've got people out here that do believe in you, and just know that like you were asking for prayers, we're praying for you, man, and we hope for your well-being, and I hope that you hear that in
this
our
could
voice.
happen to any of us that are in this field. Any of us. I mean, if anybody wants to know really what's going on, there's an investigative journalist that's bringing the truth out. She's bringing the truth out about the cop that tried to help me and what they did to her.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Stacy Lynn. You can go to Stacy Lynn's Facebook page, and she talks about it all. And I appreciate the prayers. I don't want to keep you too long. I just wanted to thank you for, talking about me fairly, and I do appreciate both sides. And I got to tell you, ask my wife, I'm still a skeptic.
You're still a skeptic?
There's nothing wrong with being a skeptic, Stan. I mean, a healthy dose of skepticism goes a long way.
I'm about to say, what do you got to do, hit you over the head? But I guess you've already had that all done to you, so...
Well, I believe what's happened to me, but there's still certain things I just kind of have a hard time with. And I don't want to lose that skepticism, because if you do, we have friends that, God bless them, that believe in everything. And we have a lot of scientist friends, too, that say that can't possibly be true, and this is why.
Both ways,
So if you stay somewhat skeptical, then eventually you'll learn the truth. Is it real? Is it not real? The UFO phenomenon is definitely real. So
it's like that old saying, keep an open mind, but not so open your brains fall out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Stan, thanks for coming on. And,
we do appreciate it.
Yeah, we do appreciate it, and it means a lot to us. And like I said, we would love to have you back at some time when things are more copacetic with you, and you have an open door. And of course, you know that here at Spaceboy Universe, we support you 100%, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No problem. You have a great evening, Stan.
You too.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, it's hard to...
I wasn't prepped for that.
I wasn't. Yeah, they prepped for that, but we're thankful that it's funny how the Spaceboy Universe works that way.
I'm sorry, dear. Dino's calling, and it wouldn't be a show
without
unless
Dino. Dino.
Yes, hello, good evening, Surlana, and what's your name, Spaceboy?
Yeah, Spaceboy. Surlana.
I get my shows mixed up.
Surlana and the other guy is what it is.
Oh, now.
We need one. Well, I'm the third one, and I'm the stooge. You can call me Mo. But anyway, there's not much to say except that we've been very blessed. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but we've been very blessed. I mean, that Lisa has come on, and Stan has come on. I mean, amazing. And what I do have to say, I've been watching, the videos even before there was trouble here, and it seems pretty amazing. But I get the same feeling as you, Space, that that it's very easy, and I've had it in my own life on a smaller scale, to accuse someone of something that is shocking and despicable to some, and then when someone is cleared of this or it's found not to be true, there's no publicity. And we've all experienced this. So I'm hoping that your show and other shows, when this is cleared up, I'm hoping that the resolution comes soon. And as we said on the chat room, I've had so many of my questions answered tonight, by the way, by Lisa, has been very forthcoming. And it's just, we're going to put out a lot of energy. I know that everybody on the chat and elsewhere, we're going to put out energy that this comes out the way it should, the right way, the just way, the truthful way, which is the reason I listen to your show. I don't care if it's something that's uncomfortable. It's got to be the truth. So, that's the thing. So there are a lot of things that were answered on chat for me, thank you, by the parties. And I just think that we got to put out the word after this is all resolved, so that I don't know if Stan will choose to continue to put out what has happened to him and what he has learned. I'm hoping he will, but I wouldn't blame him if it shut him up, which is the whole purpose of all this. This is how they shut people up nowadays. They don't assassinate you with a bullet anymore if they can get away with it.
They assassinate your character.
They do it socially, exactly. So, I mean, that's what I have to say tonight. I mean, you've been very good about covering the story as a narrator, and then of course we've had the spice of actual, Lisa filling in details for us and giving us insights that I don't think you could have gotten on any other program. This is a wonderful, wonderful one of your top 3 shows as far as I'm concerned.
It's been a good year for shows.
Did I say that every time I call?
Yeah, I think you do. But that's all right. You're Dino, so you're allowed to just sweet talk us to death.
Well, you guys were great to me back when I first met you, and even before. And you're very generous and good people. And
we're the real thing, aren't we, Dino? We are what we are, right?
Yeah. No, I mean you are. I mean you're no fakes there. And I still. I'm going to release a little personal information here. Back at a previous contact in the desert, your wife came to me, Spaceboy, during a debauched party that Jimmy Church was offering.
And I didn't talk this much, did I?
No, midnight in the desert, and I think Surlana and I were the only 2 that weren't drinking. And she said to me, Dino, she was very concerned. She said, we already had this agreement. We're trying to get our health good and all that, and we weren't going to be drinking. And here's Spaceboy, pounding down shots with Jimmy. And I told her, come on, it's a vacation. It's the contact. He'll clean it up afterward, and you did.
Yeah.
So that was a good night, though. But it was great seeing you, and we've always kind of presented ourselves to everybody that what you see is what you get. When you met us, we're the same people. In
K28 found that out.
Yeah, when we had when K28 was here in Houston, we had dinner, and he said it's like watching the show live, and because this is how we are.
We were bickering or something.
Yeah, we were doing something, and he had a chuckle out of it. So, but Dino, we think the world of you, man. You're a great person, and we were honored to meet you out there in the desert.
Well, all I can say, there's just one criticism I have. Spaceboy, you are a slave to popularity and to celebrity, because anybody that would wear a spacesuit in the desert in that heat just to take pictures with Travis Walton and the other
it wasn't as bad as it sounded. The sun was going down.
To be honest with you, I think Linda Moulton-Howe was a little bit shocked because I came right up to her and like, hey, I don't mean to interrupt here, but I want you to introduce you to my wife here.
Yeah, pay no attention to me in a spacesuit.
Well, I'll tell you, I scared her too. She scares easily, but who wouldn't with all the information she spilled out?
Dino. All right, Dino. Well, we're heading to the end of the broadcast, but
okay, I'll let you tune out. And thank you, and thank you, Lisa and Stan, and we're there for you. And keep in touch with me. I never use Twitter, but I do have it on a different name, so I may contact you at some point in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Thanks,
Dino. All right. Good night, all. Good night, all you chatters.
Good night, Dino.
Bye, Dino.
Spaceboy Universe is hosted by Spaceboy and Surlana. Executive producer is Surlana. Social media producer is Dennis Koch. Associate producer is Lee Ann Cordes. Music production is Spaceboy of SpaceboyMusic.com. Special thanks goes out to Lee Ann K, K28, Mark S, and Bob N. This has been a Spaceboy Universe production. Support the universe by exploring Spaceboy Universe with Spaceboy and Surlana. Sweet dreams, Space Cadets.